Chapter 1837. Zichen. After everyone heard this address, their eyebrows all straightened at the same time. Their gazes all turned towards the handsome young man who stood up. Zifeng, you're messing around. Fu Nian glared fiercely at Zhang Liang. Although in his eyes Zichen's attainments in martial arts were quite deep, he was still not a match for the 6 sword slaves. After all, the other party was a famous swordsman. Every one of them was a swordsman with decent strength before they joined the Luo net. After joining the Luo net, and going through a series of hellish training, every one of them became a killing machine. On the other hand, Zichen. The Confucians were in despair. In their view, Zichen was just a 17 or 18-year-old boy. How could he be a match for the 6 sword slaves? This was a classic act of courting death. But everyone looked at the unfathomable smile on Zhang Liang's face, and was puzzled. Good, not bad. You're young, but your courage is commendable. Seeing the imposing Zichen, Li Si's eyes lit up. Afraid that the Confucians would go back on their word, he hurriedly said, however, the 6 sword slaves can't bully you with numbers. You can choose one of them as your opponent. 1 against 1 was despicable enough, and would be suspected of bullying the weak. If all the 6 sword slaves attacked together, Li Si was sure that he would be mocked by the world. If it's just a simple competition, then it's really too boring. At this moment, Zichen, dustless, suddenly said to Li Si with a smile, Lord Minister, why don't we add a little variety? Oh, add a little variety? Sounds interesting. Let's hear it. Li Si was immediately interested and said, if it's possible, I'll agree to it. Lord Minister, you're from the school of legalism, and legalism advocates rewarding those who do well, and punishing those who do wrong. The final winner should be rewarded. This shouldn't be too much, right? Dustless looked at Chu Nangong and said meaningfully, this makes sense. Everyone looked at each other, and thought for a moment before nodding slightly. Since it was a competition, it was normal to have some rewards. What kind of reward does everyone think is suitable? Li Si asked without hesitation. If it was just pure gold, it would be too vulgar, especially for scholars like the Confucians. In their eyes, money was just a worldly possession. Moreover, with money as a competition, they might think that Li Si was deliberately insulting the Confucians. Lord Prime Minister, there is no need to worry. Someone has already prepared the reward for Lord Prime Minister. Dustless spoke again. He looked at Chu Nangong with a smile and said, I heard that Nangong has a peerless book called the Yellowstone Heaven Book. Since Nangong is a hanger-on of the Prime Minister, why don't you use it as a reward? As soon as his voice trailed off, everyone's expression changed drastically. They all stared at Chu Nangong in shock. Nangong, I didn't expect you to have such a treasure. Hearing this, Li Si's face immediately turned ugly. His gaze was somewhat gloomy as he looked at Chu Nangong. The Yellowstone Heavenly Book had already been spread to the point that it was almost divine. In Li Si's opinion, such a good thing should be given to him by Chu Nangong. Who would have thought that this old man would hide it? The Yellow Emperor Xianyuan was one of the ancestors of China, and the first ancestor of the humanities. He was known as the ancestor of China along with the Yan Emperor, who was born on the shore of the Jiangshui River. He was the leader of the tribal alliance in ancient China, the first owner of the Yellowstone Heavenly Book. The Yellow Emperor Xianyuan obtained the magical power by comprehending the secrets of this Yellowstone Heavenly Book and defeated Qiyu. Jiangxia assisted King Wu of Zhou in destroying the Shang dynasty. Because of his contributions, he was awarded the title of Qi and became the ancestor of the Qi kingdom in the Zhou dynasty. He was an outstanding statesman, strategist in the history of China. The second owner of the Yellowstone Heavenly Book. His attainment of the Tao in Mount Qi was related to this Yellowstone Heavenly Book. Hearing this, Chu Nangong panicked. Finally, he could no longer stay out of it like before. He glared fiercely at Dustless and hurriedly explained. Lord Prime Minister, you may not know this, but I recently obtained this book. I wanted to give it to you in a few days, but who would have thought that I would participate in the Confucian school? I have a bad memory and forgot. Forgot? How could he forget such an important thing? Everyone disagreed with this ridiculous excuse. Then Nangong, what are your plans? Li Si looked at Chu Nangong meaningfully and dragged his voice as he asked meaningfully. Of course, I'm willing to give it to you with both hands. No, I'm willing to give it to you as the winner. Chu Nangong quickly changed his words. If he gave it to Li Si directly, it would be hard to avoid being criticized. It was better to give it to him as the winner of the competition. After all, the person who would get the Yellowstone Heavenly Book in the end would be Li Si. Chu Nangong did not think that Dustless could defeat the 6 sword slaves. Such a peerless book is going to fall into Li Si's hands. Everyone sighed in their hearts. They were afraid that Li Si would have to give it to Yingzheng again. No one could get it. Idiots, the Yellowstone Heavenly Book is mine. You mortals want to take it for yourselves. You overestimate yourselves. Dustless sneered in his heart when he saw this. What is this guy's intention? Zhang Liang's eyes stared at Dustless. His view was very different from others. He believed that the final winner would be Dustless. Within the Confucian school, only Zhang Liang knew the identity of Dustless. Not to mention that he was just one of the 6 sword slaves. Even if all of them besieged Dustless, Zhang Liang believed that the winner would be Dustless. However, before this, when Dustless entered the Confucian school, he deliberately dressed up and changed his appearance. No one knew that this Zichun in front of them was the wanted Dustless. Chapter 1838. This old thing. How dare he hide such an important thing from me? Li Si's expression was calm on the surface, but in his heart, endless ripples were set off. Li Si had been slapped in the face by the Confucian school, and the Prime Minister's stomach was big enough to support a boat. However, even his own people had lied to him. A Confucian school disciple knew that Chu Nangong had the Yellowstone Heavenly Book, but Li Si, as the Prime Minister, had no idea. Especially since Chu Nangong was his follower, Li Si was furious. I'll deal with you when we get back. Li Si looked away from Chu Nangong's head and finally looked at Zhao Gao's head. Zhao Gao, who do you think is more suitable to fight? Remember, this is a sword debate. Don't overdo it. Li Si said with a serious expression. Hearing this, Zhao Gao stood up respectfully. He cupped his fist and reported to Li Si. Prime Minister, since you said don't overdo it, Wanchen will be fine. As soon as he said that, a man covered in Yinqi stepped forward. He looked very evil. He wore a mask with a huge spider embedded in it. It was impossible to tell what he looked like. However, anyone could tell that this guy was not a good person. He was definitely not a good person. Not bad. Seeing this, Li Si nodded with satisfaction. An imperceptible smile appeared on his face. The Yellowstone Heavenly Book is mine. Li Si thought so. Of course, Dustless thought so too. Clang, clang, clang. There was a flash of cold light in the void. Luanshan's sword was unsheathed. He pointed at Dustless's throat and said coldly, "Pretty boy, draw your sword. Don't waste my time." This guy, hearing Luanshan's arrogant tone, everyone was unhappy. This Luanshan of the 6 sword slaves was already suspected of bullying the weak. Now he was shamelessly looking down on others. He was really shameless. On the other hand, Zhao Gao and Li Si did not care. They only cared about the result. It's just a dog. Dustless lifted his lips and mumbled something. Although it was as soft as a mosquito, everyone heard him clearly. That was especially true of Wan Shun, who was the closest to Dustless. His eyes looked cold. Everyone else heard him clearly. Chaos God was no exception. Brat, fists and feet are silent. You better be careful. Dustless's words made Chaos God really angry. If Li Si and the others had said something like that, it would have been fine. After all, that was someone else's identity. But Dustless, to put it nicely, he was just a Confucian student. Yet he dared to look down on him. He simply didn't know how to write the word death. Even though Li Si had told him not to overdo it, bumps were inevitable. It was normal for him to accidentally kill Dustless. In the end, he just needed to do a clean job. Plus, Chaos God had made up his mind. Even if he could not kill Dustless, he was going to cripple him. He had brought this upon himself. What is he planning to do with the Yellowstone Heaven Book? Zhang Liang had been thinking hard. Even though the battle had not started yet, he already had an idea of the result of this competition. Chaos God, One of the 6 sword slaves of the Luonet was going to lose. Is he going to give it to someone else? Zhang Liang's eyes shone brightly. Dustless did not even know how to read, let alone a book like the Yellowstone Heaven book. Other than giving it to someone else to study, Zhang Liang could not think of any other reason. Draw the sword? I don't have a sword. How can I draw it? Why don't we fight with our bare hands? Dustless shrugged and said helplessly, taking out the heaven-gathering cloud's sword in front of everyone would be too shocking. Take it. It's just a normal competition. No need to be nervous. Just do your best. At that moment, an unexpected person gave his own sword to Dustless. This is Big Brother's Tai-Ah? Everyone was in disbelief as they stared at the seemingly crude great sword. Everyone's breathing became heavier, especially Zhang Liang and Yen Lu. They were all dumbfounded as they stared at Fu Nian, who had a resolute face. It seems like Big Brother wants Zichen to use Tai-Ah. He wants the quality of the sword to be better than Chaos God's. But the second in command of the Confucian school of thought, Yen Lu, shook his head. The most important thing about swordsmanship was the person using the sword. Take Gunia for example. In the original novel, even if his abyss rainbow was broken, he could still fight against an expert like Xing Hun with a wooden sword. Swords are not suitable for me. Dustless glanced at Tai-Ah, which Zimu had given him. He saw Zimu looking at him with envy, jealousy, and hatred. He immediately rejected it. Swords were elegant objects. They were suitable for gentlemen like Fu Nian and Zhang Liang. However, they were not suitable for Dustless. Compared to swords, Dustless preferred to use simple and rough knives. Kid, if you want to fight me with your bare hands, I don't mind. Chaos God, one of the 6 sword slaves, said coldly. His sharp longsword was already at Dustless's throat. It seemed like he had no intention of throwing away his sword. So shameless. Seeing this, the Confucian school of thought cursed in their hearts. The 6 sword slaves were terrifying existences in the Jianghu. It was already shameless enough to fight against a Confucian school of thought. Now they wanted to use their swords to fight against Dustless, who was barehanded. Enough. Even Li Si could not stand it anymore. Chaos God was too shameless. This kid is the one. We can't change him. Li Si looked at Dustless with burning eyes. If Ru Guang was replaced by Zhang Liang or Fu Nian, it was uncertain who would win in a 1v1 situation. If Chaos God lost, the Yellowstone Heavenly Book would disappear. Chapter 1839. There was no doubt that even a sword saint like Gunia, or an expert with the number 1 sword in the world, would not be able to gain an advantage against the 6 of them. But if it was a one-on-one fight, what were the chances of victory? Especially against experts like Yen Lu, and Zhang Liang, Li Si did not understand. Why not? It's enough to take care of a Confucian disciple. Li Si frowned as he looked at Dustless and impatiently said, Finish this quickly. I still have many trivial matters to attend to. I don't have time to waste. Just pick up some trash to deal with him. If we delay, things might change. Dustless was too lazy to waste words. Under everyone's shocked gazes, a ripple appeared in his palm, and a slender katana emerged from thin air. What kind of ability is this? Everyone noticed Dustless's abnormality and they all looked surprised. Everyone was shocked by this move. The unknown tachi that could cut iron like mud was shining with cold light, and was overflowing with an ominous murderous aura. Holding the tachi in his hand, Wu Chen seemed to have found his original soul in an instant. His whole body radiated a unique temperament. Everyone felt a trace of indescribable oppression. There was a faint evil smile at the corner of his mouth. Everyone frowned slightly when they saw Wu Chen's abnormality. What's wrong with this kid? Li Si could no longer maintain his calm expression. For some reason, when he saw Dustless's faint smile, he felt like an idiot who had been played by a brat. At this moment, Li Si had an ominous premonition that a great disaster was about to befall him. Should I switch people out at the last minute? Li Si hesitated, and a rare cold sweat appeared on his forehead. He had never had such a headache before, even when he had encountered a difficult national matter. But who can I switch out? Li Si shook his head when he saw the cold faces of the 6 sword slaves. He would never do something as shameless as a 6v1. If it were Fu Nian and the others, it would be fine, but to deal with a Confucian disciple, Li Si estimated that he would be labeled as shameless by the world in the future. Should I use her? Retracting his gaze from the 6 sword slaves, Li Si looked at the beautiful girl on his right. The girl had a head of long and thin purple hair. Her face was covered by a veil, so it was impossible to tell what she looked like. The girl's eyes were extremely tranquil and serene, unmoving. Her gem-like eyes were as calm as an ancient well, giving people the feeling that even if the sky were to collapse, it would have nothing to do with her. This person was young Arbiter Ming of the school of Yin Yang. It's even more inappropriate to expect her to fight. At the same time, Li Si retracted his gaze from young Master Ming. He was a shrewd man. Although the Yin Yang school and the Qin state were allies, they were still 2 different people. The importance of the Yellowstone Heavenly Book was self-evident. Who knew if the school of Yin Yang would be moved? It was rumored that after comprehending the Heavenly Book, one would obtain inconceivable power. Wasn't this what the school of Yin Yang pursued? Why does he look so familiar? Although Xiao Ming looked emotionless on the surface, a faint ripple had appeared in her heart. She kept staring at Dustless from the corner of her eyes. Although Dustless had disguised himself, Xiao Ming couldn't help but think of a wanted person, Dustless. No matter how a person disguised himself or changed his appearance, his aura could never be changed. I remember that Xing Han was the one who came to find trouble with the school of Yin Yang. I didn't expect it to be her this time. Dustless also stole a few glances at Xiao Ming from the corner of his eyes. He couldn't help but sigh. Even without Xing Han, the Yin Yang school still sent young Master Ming. Of course, the main reason was Dustless. Xing Han was severely injured by him last time. Even if he was lucky and didn't die, he probably had 1 foot in the door of hell, and was still recuperating. Therefore, it was young Master Ming's turn to find trouble with the school of Yin Yang. But this girl is really beautiful at such a young age. Dustless muttered to himself. The veil covering young Master Ming's face was as good as non-existent to Dustless. He could see her beautiful face with 1 glance. Kid, go and die. Just as Dustless stole glances at young Master Ming, Wanshan finally couldn't hold it in anymore. It was just a fight, but Dustless's hesitation had already ignited the flames in his heart. Experts usually wouldn't get angry easily, but once they did, the consequences would be extremely severe. Wanshan was one such example. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The sharp sword light went straight for Dustless's eyes. It was extremely tricky. Be careful. He's too despicable. The school of Yin Yang reminded loudly, cursing Wanshan for being shameless and despicable. He launched a sneak attack without saying anything. This guy's shamelessness wasn't any worse than Li Si's. Despicable. Hearing this, Zhao Gao's face was filled with mockery. He glanced at the school of Yin Yang and snorted disdainfully. These people were destined to be gentlemen. That was why they would be wiped out in the end. Too slow. Dustless's unbelievably calm tone popped out of his mouth. Then the tachi in his hand swept out, and a weak sword attack emerged. This scene was too fast. It happened in the blink of an eye. Only the top experts could see it. Wanshan suddenly felt a piercing pain on his cheek. It was as if someone had torn it apart. It was extremely painful. Then drops of blood kept dripping down. How boring. Ignoring everyone's shocked eyes, Dustless said. It's not too late to admit defeat after a few rounds. Who would have thought that you would lose everything in an instant? Chapter 1840. He lost just like that. Seeing this, Li Si's eyes widened as if he had seen a ghost. The dignified prime minister looked like a country bumpkin at this moment. He had completely lost his image. Of course, it was not just Li Si. Everyone's expression was as exaggerated as his. The only people who remained calm were Zhang Liang, Tianming, and Xiao Yu, who knew Dustless's identity. Impossible, he lost. Zhao Gao saw the scary wound on Chaos God's face. He could not believe what he was seeing. He screamed, "This is the truth." Dustless glanced at him in boredom. He did not have a good impression of this eunuch. Prime Minister, should you announce the outcome now? Staring at Li Si, who was in a daze and seemed to have lost his soul, Wu Chen deliberately dragged his voice. This. Hearing this, the corners of Li Si's mouth twitched twice. Thinking about how the cooked duck had flown away, he felt especially depressed in his heart. If it was an ordinary thing, then so be it. With Li Si's status he wouldn't care. But the importance of the Yellowstone Heavenly Book was not inferior to a great secret like the Azure Dragon's 7 mansions in Li Si's heart. The Yellowstone Heavenly Book was a unique book. Everyone who was fated with it would have extraordinary achievements in the end. The Yellow Emperor Xianyuan and Jiang Taigong were the same. Li Si wanted to have it even in his dreams. However, sadly Yuanshan, who he trusted, was killed by the enemy in one strike. Li Si's heart was suddenly filled with despair. He glared at Zhao Gao with fire in his eyes. It was all his fault for choosing Yuanshan to fight Dustless. It's none of my business. Seeing this, Zhao Gao wanted to cry but had no tears. He did not expect Dustless to be so abnormal. Humph, kid, you broke the rules. This round does not count. It should be annulled. At this moment, Zhao Gao suddenly had an idea and threatened. Did you forget what the Prime Minister said? You used a sword to injure someone. This is a serious crime. That's right. Hearing this, Li Si took the opportunity to put on airs and shouted. Why did you deliberately injure someone? How shameless. Seeing this, all the Confucian disciples glared angrily, including Fu Nian and Zhang Liang. Even Yan Lu, who rarely got angry, frowned. Although it's said to stop when it's appropriate, bumps and bruises are unavoidable. He was the one who said that. Dustless pointed at Yuanshan, who had a bloody scar on his cheek, and said lazily, also he released a murderous aura towards me before. Why didn't the magistrate say that he broke the rules? Zhao Gao was the prefectural magistrate of Zhongche Prefecture. Hearing that, Zhao Gao was speechless. He looked at Yuanshan and cursed. Useless piece of trash. This is what you get for looking down on others. Damn it. Chaos God was embarrassed and angry. He touched the wound on his face. Just as he was about to raise his sword to fight, Dustless said something that made him put down his hand. You've already lost. If you point your sword at me again, I'll take it as an act of seeking death. Rice bucket, back off. Li Si glared at Yuanshan with his cold eyes. His expression changed rapidly, and finally he acted shamelessly. Sigh, I'm old and my memory is not good. I forgot to say before that this competition is a best of 3. All the rules are set by you. What else is there to compete? Fu Nian, who couldn't bear it anymore, snorted and said, since that's the case, our Confucian school admits defeat. 2 out of 3 matches it is. Do as you please. Dustless immediately expressed a different opinion, and refuted Fu Nian's opinion. He had finally found an excuse to snatch the Yellowstone Heavenly Book. How could he give up just because of Fu Nian's words? Moreover, what could a best of 3 change? He would still lose. Since it's a best of 3, then the next round. An unexpected beautiful figure came out to disturb the situation. Her elegant purple hair was like a fairy descending from the sky. Her light voice caused everyone to be startled, and they were unable to extricate themselves from her intoxication. It's you. Dustless frowned. He helplessly found that the person who challenged him was young Master Ming of the School of Yinyang. Sure enough, the School of Yinyang also wants the Yellowstone Heavenly Book. Li Si's face turned ugly. The School of Yinyang had a high position in Ning Zheng's heart. Once the Yellowstone Heavenly Book was taken away by the School of Yinyang, it was almost impossible to make them spit it out. We were the ones who lost this competition, so we'll win it back. The rest of the slaves of the 6 swords suggested to Zhao Gao. Unexpectedly, Zhao Gao just asked them to get lost. You're just a few pieces of trash. How can you be brave when you're just a general of a defeated army? Shut up. In the end, this matter had nothing to do with Zhao Gao. However, the slaves of the 6 swords had lost and caused Li Si to hold a grudge against him. It was especially sad and felt like a fish in the moat. Sending a little girl to fight me? How can I do that? Dustless deliberately scratched his head and put on an embarrassed look. You feel embarrassed? That's fine. Since you don't have the heart to fight, then you should take the initiative to quit and give the Yellowstone Heavenly Book to me. It was rare for young Master Ming, who was usually quiet, to be talkative. What a joke. How can I give this thing away so easily? Hearing this, Dustless scolded in his heart and rolled his eyes. If it was an ordinary thing, he wouldn't mind giving it away. However, he was determined to get the Yellowstone Heavenly Book and the 7 constellations of the Azure Dragon. If you don't want to, then cut the crap and do it quickly. The steam in Great Master Ming's body was rolling. With a light tap of her hand, a genuine energy vortex appeared. Then, countless green leaves were under her control, and were easily sucked into the vortex in her palm. Then, under everyone's surprised gaze, a long whip made entirely of green leaves was formed in an instant. Chapter 1841. Young Arbiter Ming looks like she's only in her teens. She's probably not much older than Xinghun. Dustless nodded in admiration. He looked at Li Si and asked, Minister, this is the last time, right? There won't be a best of 5 rule again, right? Li Si was embarrassed by Dustless's question. To be honest, he had lost all his face as a minister by acting shamelessly in front of a Confucian disciple. Brat, how dare you? Zhao Gao's eyes turned cold. He had felt that Dustless was strange since the beginning. He didn't seem like a simple Confucian disciple. The Confucian school pursued the path of a gentleman. They usually convinced people with reason, and wouldn't bully people with power. Therefore, the swordsmanship used by the Confucian school was filled with righteousness. However, the moment Wu Chen held the blade, his temperament changed drastically. The overbearing aura of pointing the sword at the sky made everyone feel small and insignificant. This kind of overbearing swordsmanship was definitely not from the Confucian school. This Zichun is indeed a little strange. Zhao Gao wasn't the only one who saw the problem. The head of the Confucian school, Fu Nian, also saw the abnormality. Most of the Confucian school only knew how to use swords. Sabers were a relatively crude weapon. It didn't match the elegance of the Confucian school, and conflicted with the teachings of the Confucian school. All in all, the Confucian school basically used swords. However, in Dustless's eyes, sabers and swords were no different. A weapon that could kill was the best. This is the last time. If you win, the Yellowstone Heavenly Book will be yours, Li Si said expressionlessly. However, he squinted his eyes and looked at Dustless. Brat, how dare you trick me? Just wait and see. Li Si knew that he had been tricked. The culprit was this seemingly harmless young man in front of him. Swish, swish, swish. As soon as Li Si finished speaking, young Arbiter Ming launched a fatal attack. The green whip contained an unimaginable sharpness and swept towards Dustless's face. So weak. Dustless blinked his eyes and stared at the long whip coming from the left. He raised the tachi in his hand and slashed it down. Poochie. The seemingly extraordinary green leaf whip was exceptionally fragile under the overwhelming power, and was brutally cut apart by Dustless. Such strength. Xiao Ximing's nose slightly wrinkled. Dustless could clearly see the girl's surprise even with the veil covering her face. Great Ximing and Moon God are already my people, let alone you. Dustless laughed in his heart. Moon God's position was higher than Great Ximing's, but she was still one of his people, let alone young Ximing in front of him. I'll just make your Yinyang school my own people and turn Dong Huangtai into a general without an army. Dustless chuckled in his heart. The corners of his lips curled up slightly. It was as if he could already see Dong Huangtai's pitiful look when he was betrayed after knowing the truth. Humph. Seeing Dustless's silly smile, Xiao Ximing's eyes flashed dangerously. How dare he think of other things while fighting with her? Wasn't this looking down on her? Shoo shoo shoo. Xiao Ximing waved her hand lightly. True qi gushed out, and a weak whirlpool quietly appeared on her palm again. Buzz buzz buzz. The leaves that were cut off by Dustless floated up again. Following Xiao Ximing's will, they all flew towards Dustless at lightning speed. Shoo shoo shoo. The dense green leaves emitted a dangerous sharpness, refracting a gloomy cold light. Every green leaf was like a blade. Poochie. 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 In the blink of an eye, the floating green leaf pierced through Dustless's body at an extremely fast speed. Moreover, an extremely bloody scene unfolded. They pierced through Dustless's chest, and one could even see the white bones inside. Puke 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 puke. Having never seen such a bloody scene, the disciples of the school of Moism started to vomit. You killed someone. Seeing this, Fu Nian was furious. Seeing Dustless's miserable face, his anger exploded. He knew that he had been patient enough, but he didn't expect the school of Yinyang to be so bold. Killing a Confucian disciple in front of the Confucian school of thought. Wasn't this slapping the Confucian school of thought's face? Little Saint Zhuang Wuxin participated in the Jianghu feud, but you are too presumptuous. Fu Nian's cold gaze swept across young Judge Ming. The Taia sword in Fu Nian's hand had already been unsheathed, and a fatal pressure spread out. Now that the Confucian disciple was killed, he would be laughed at if he, the school of thought, continued to remain silent. However, Xiao Ximing remained unmoved. Seeing Wu Chen's body, she couldn't help but feel a little strange. Her mouth moved slightly. Just as Xiao Ximing was about to open her mouth, her beautiful eyes suddenly shrank. Game over. At this moment, a straight tachi was pressed against Xiao Ximing's throat. Aren't you dead? Li Si couldn't help but ask in surprise. When he saw Dustless's miserable state, he also felt nauseous. However, when Li Si looked at Dustless's body again, it had already turned into a piece of destroyed wood. Dead. Hearing this, Dustless smiled. To put it bluntly, it was just a random clone technique, and it wasn't Dustless's real body. Lord Xiangguo is right, but the dead me is just a piece of wood. You. Looking down at the tachi on her throat, Xiao Ximing clenched her fists tightly, looking rather unwilling. There's always someone better. Although your school of Yinyang isn't bad, it's not invincible. Especially you. You've chosen the wrong opponent. Admit defeat. Chapter 1842. It wasn't that Dustless was toying with young Master Ming. Even if he was, it couldn't be helped. Young Master Ming's strength couldn't pique Dustless's interest. He could only play with her casually. This technique is somewhat similar to Shu Mountain's one-leaf vision. Young Master Ming gritted her teeth and pouted. She seemed to be extremely dissatisfied. To a certain extent, it is indeed similar. However, one-leaf vision is an illusion to confuse the enemy. Mine is just a simple doppelganger technique. It isn't used to confuse the enemy. There is a fundamental difference. Dustless stared at young Master Ming's veiled face and explained. Lord Minister, you can announce the final result. Looking at Li Si, Dustless said plainly. Although it's best of 3, I've already won 2 rounds. There's no need to continue. Zhao Gao and the others, as well as Li Si, looked at the handsome young man in a daze. They were a little absent-minded. When they were Dustless's age, they only knew how to play around all day. This competition is over. The Confucian disciple, Zichen, wins. Li Si announced loudly. When these words fell, everyone was a little stunned. Young Master Ming of the Yinyang school and Chaos God of the 6 Sword Slaves had lost so easily. It was somewhat difficult for everyone to accept. After all, their opponent was just a Confucian disciple. Moreover, he was the type that ranked last. This is good. It's better than falling into the hands of the Yinyang school. Everything was already done. Li Si also felt relieved. If the Yellowstone Heavenly Book fell into the hands of the Yinyang school, they would definitely not be able to take it back. However, Dustless. Kid, I'll deal with you when I have time. I'll let you live for a while longer. Li Si withdrew his cold gaze and chatted with Fu Nian for a while before leaving. Before leaving, he didn't forget to look at Dustless a few more times. It was as if he wanted to engrave that face in his heart forever. I won't lose to you next time, young Master Ming said as she brushed past Dustless. She then turned around and looked at Dustless suspiciously. From the first moment she saw him, she felt that this guy looked familiar. Hee hee. Dustless chuckled nonchalantly. Actually, I want to lose a few times as well. But after so many years, I've always been winning. Life is really as lonely as snow. Just you wait. Hearing this, Xiao Ximing was choked by Dustless's words and almost couldn't help but slap him. Dustless's arrogant expression was really annoying. It's a given that you can't recognize me, young Master Ming. Dustless's entire body was now disguised, and he had even grown taller. There was a big difference between him and the old Dustless, so it was normal that young Arbiter Ming didn't recognize him. Oh right. Dustless turned into a gust of wind and walked in front of Chu Nangong. If it's not convenient for Nangong to send the Yellowstone Heavenly Book over, I'll take the initiative to go to your residence and get it. Although this old man is old, I don't need you to run errands for me. I can do it myself. Chu Nangong snorted and refused. His heart was bleeding. The Yellowstone Heavenly Book was a peerless treasure. He hadn't even gotten to use it yet, and now he had to change owners. It was as if a large piece of his flesh was cut off by Dustless. It was very uncomfortable. What gave Chu Nangong the most headache was that he had offended Li Si because of this incident. This brat is going to kill me. Looking at Dustless, Chu Nangong was furious. Everyone knew about Li Si's ruthlessness. This brat could even kill his own schoolmate and good friend, let alone others. Take care. At the entrance of the Sage Manor, a group of people watched Li Si's group leave. Zichen, come over here. Fu Nian looked at Dustless seriously and asked, do you know that your life was hanging by a thread today? If it weren't for the Confucian family and the unsuitable location, perhaps Li Si would have ordered the 6 sword slaves of the net to kill you. It's a pity that they didn't take action in the end. Dustless shrugged and said indifferently, moreover, didn't we turn the danger into safety in the end? When facing the enemy, we have to press forward and not compromise. Retreating won't lead to a boundless sea and sky. It will only lead to an even more violent storm. Seeing this, Fu Nian also had a headache. He had also heard of this Zichen. He was famous for his wild nature, and was even weirder than Ziming. At the very least, Tianming knew a few words. On the other hand, Dustless didn't know a single word, but he had a lot of principles. Sometimes he even made Fu Nian speechless. In fact, Dustless couldn't be blamed for being illiterate. If a modern person was called to ancient times, 99% of them wouldn't be able to recognize the words of this era. Senior brother, no matter what, the Confucian family's face was preserved. This is Zichen's credit. Compared to the meticulous Fu Nian, Yanlu was much gentler. He didn't think that Dustless was wrong. Instead, he felt that he had gone overboard and saved the face of the Confucian family. Second senior brother's words make sense. Zhang Liang also took the opportunity to interrupt. You still dare to talk about credit? What kind of behavior is it to fight Li Si and the net head-on? It's simply setting fire to yourself. Don't forget Li Si's identity, the Prime Minister of the Empire. The people don't fight with the officials. If we continue to fight blindly, we will definitely suffer losses. Han Fei is the outcome. Do you want to push the little Sage Manor into a place of no return? Fu Nian stared at Yanlu and Zhang Liang's face, rolled his eyes, and shouted angrily, you guys can quarrel slowly. Hearing that Fu Nian and the other two were educating each other, Dustless tactfully left. This was an internal matter of the Confucian family. There was no need for him to meddle in other people's business. He just needed to wait for Chu Nangong to send the Yellowstone Heavenly Book over. Chapter 1843. Li Si and the rest left in a hurry and came back in a hurry. Li Si, who had come to pick a fight today, had lost all his face. After being slapped in the face a few times, he might not be able to maintain his dignity as the Prime Minister. It was inevitable that he would become a laughingstock. At this moment, Xing Hun, who had been severely injured by Dustless, was slowly waking up. Lord Xing Hun, this is the corpse god Curse Gu? Great Si Ming stared at the worm in Xing Hun's hand and asked in surprise. However, there was a cold glint in his eyes. Now that Great Si Ming was one of Dustless's men, he had to report something as vicious as the corpse god Curse Gu to Dustless. That's right, Xing Hun nodded grimly and said through gritted teeth. I used this to deal with Dustless. That guy is too strong and unreliable. I can only use the corpse god Curse Gu to deal with him. If he can't use his genuine chi, he will definitely die. When he mentioned Dustless, Xing Hun's bandaged wound started to hurt intensely again. Due to Dustless, he had narrowly escaped death previously. However, he was quite lucky. He did not die completely and managed to reach the Yinyang sect's stronghold in Shanghai in time. After a series of treatments, he was slowly recovering. As for you, Xing Hun stared at Great Si Ming meaningfully and said, I didn't expect you to escape from Dustless. I find it unbelievable. I also find it unbelievable that I have become one of Dustless's men and obtained such extraordinary strength. This is all thanks to you, Xing Han. In the end, I even have to thank you. Great Ming sneered in his heart and hated Xing Han to death. However, he maintained his composure and said, "That guy is very lecherous. I managed to escape when he was careless." "Is that so?" Hearing this, Xing Han glanced at Great Ming meaningfully. Soon after, he said in a sinister voice, "Then, is it all right for me to check the inside of your mind? This will prove your innocence." Having said that, Xing Han stared at Great Ming viciously. However, Great Ming was no longer the same as before. He pretended to be flustered, but his heart was as calm as a mountain as he calmly thought of a solution. It was impossible for him to search Xing Han's memories. Is it appropriate to kill him or not? Great Ming hesitated. Dustless's order was to squeeze Xing Han dry. If he killed Xing Han now, he would be going against Dustless's order. This damned astral soul is indeed not a good thing. Great Ming was in a bad mood. If it wasn't for Dustless's previous orders, he would have slapped this scum to death. Putting aside the fact that Xing Han had thrown him down as a meat shield, he was even afraid that he would betray the Yinyang school and wanted to read her mind. Great Ming hated Xing Han to the core. "Lord Xing Han." At that moment, an ethereal voice came. Han Sen turned his head and saw that it was Moon God, who had walked over safely. "Oh, so it's Lord Moon God." Xing Han's sinister eyes were filled with surprise. He didn't expect Moon God to take the initiative to look for him. The two of them had always been harmonious on the surface, but were actually at odds with each other. There had been many open and secret fights between them. However, with Dong Huangtai suppressing them, it wouldn't be a big problem for them. Great Ming is the Fire Division Elder of the Five Spirits Mystic Sameness. You don't have the right to read her mind. Moon God stood on Great Ming's side, which was rare. I think Lord Donghuang won't agree to this either. Hearing this, Xing Han's expression froze, and his cold gaze gradually softened. He smiled and said, "Moon Goddess, please don't think that I'm so cold and heartless. She's one of us. I won't use my mind-reading technique on her. I was just joking with Great Ming. Who would believe you?" Great Ming snorted in his heart and scoffed at Xing Han's words. At the same time, he was getting more and more dissatisfied with the school of Yinyang, and decided to side with Dustless. He already had that kind of relationship with Dustless, and they couldn't be separated. Now that Xing Han was so cold, Great Ming had lost all hope in the school of Yinyang. He would rather follow Dustless. Just the temptation of the devil fruit was enough to make him unable to resist, let alone the school of Yinyang being so heartless. "I'm going to change my dressing. Goodbye." His wound started to hurt. Xing Han couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with Moon God. Now that he was in such a sorry state, he would definitely lose if he bickered with Moon God. "I didn't expect you to be that guy's man." The moon deity stared at Great Ming. Her eyes were filled with emotions and her mind was in a mess. The school of Yinyang had been ruined by Wu Chen. Dustless had secretly informed Moon God and requested her to work with Great Ming. Anyway, everything is too complicated. We can only blame that guy for being too powerful, and we can't defeat him. Great Ming said with a helpless expression. He was deeply afraid of Dustless's terrifying strength. In the face of absolute strength, one had to obey even if he didn't want to. Otherwise, he would only be digging his own grave. "That's right." Moon God nodded gently and said in a deep voice, "Dustless once asked me to get close to Yin Zhongjuan secretly and see if he could refine the elixir of immortality." "Elixir of immortality? I find it unbelievable." Great Ming wasn't surprised. It was normal for everyone to want to live forever. "Just now, I heard an interesting plan from His Excellency East Emperor. It was a secret plan on how to deal with our new leader, Dustless." The Moon God's words were shocking, and there was a hint of worry in her voice. Chapter 1844. Since when did Great Ming and the Moon Goddess get so close? Xing Han walked alone in the pavilion with a suspicious look on his face. To be honest, he was shocked that the Moon Goddess suddenly stood on Great Ming's side. He was even caught off guard. To a certain extent, Xing Hun had always treated Great Si Ming as one of his men, but now, forget it, it's best to find a chance to get rid of Great Si Ming. Xing Hun's eyes were cold. No matter what, he would never trust Great Si Ming again. Although Great Si Ming was respectful to him on the surface, Xing Hun was sure that Great Si Ming hated him to the core. This was normal. Anyone would be filled with hatred if they were betrayed by their own people. Moreover, Great Si Ming suddenly stood on the side of the moon goddess, which explained everything. However, right at this moment, an unexpected figure suddenly appeared before Xing Hun's eyes. After seeing that beautiful figure, a rather perfect plan immediately surfaced in Xing Hun's mind. After thinking for a while, Xing Hun felt that it was feasible and decisively chased after her. Young Si Ming, you don't look too good. Xing Hun suddenly blocked Young Si Ming's path. Although the latter was covered by a veil, Xing Hun could still see her ugly face clearly. Lord Xing Hun. Young Si Ming responded softly and did not say anything else. As for the reason, she did not mention it either. Could it be that you failed to cause trouble at the Sage Manor? The quick-witted Xing Hun guessed secretly with a strange expression. However, when he thought of his plan, he could not be bothered to ask further. The Sage Manor was just a small problem. Now that Dustless had become his sore point, he had to get rid of him as soon as possible. Otherwise, he would be traumatized. I thought of a perfect plan to get rid of Dustless. If what Great Si Ming said was true, then we can definitely take Dustless's head. Xing Hun said excitedly. What plan? Young Si Ming was also interested and asked curiously. To the Confucian school of Yinyang, their strongest enemy was not the Confucian school, school of Mo, or Taoist school. It was just one person, Dustless. However, young Master Ming quickly sensed that something was amiss. She saw Xing Hun staring at her with a fervent expression. A strange sense of unease spread through her. I heard from Great Si Ming that Dustless is a pervert. Therefore, young Si Ming, you will be in charge of seducing that guy. Once you find a suitable opportunity, kill that brat for me. Xing Hun revealed his plan without hesitation. If Dustless was really lustful, he would definitely be tempted by Xiao Si Ming. Getting rid of him would be a matter of course. If young Si Ming failed, it would mean that what Great Si Ming said earlier was false. Xing Hun could also use this as an excuse to get rid of Great Si Ming. This was a perfect plan to kill two birds with one stone. You want me to seduce Dustless? Is this Lord Xing Hun's perfect plan? At this moment, even the reticent young Master Ming was shocked by Xing Hun's plan. Of course, this was all due to anger. How could such a plan be called perfect? He was completely harming his own people. Don't you think this plan is suitable? This is for the school of Yinyang. Xing Hun glanced at young Master Ming, who seemed to be resisting. His face was filled with dissatisfaction, as if he was unhappy that young Master Ming was doubting his plan. Seeing Xing Hun's cold gaze, Xiao Si Ming subconsciously swallowed the words that were about to come out of her mouth. Young Master Ming was extremely disgusted by this sinister plan. Perhaps it would succeed, but after this incident, there would definitely be victims of the plan's success. One would naturally be Dustless, and the other would be young Master Ming herself. Xing Hun's plan was indeed good, but he did not consider the feelings of others. However, this fellow was used to being arrogant and never cared about the feelings of others. In Xing Hun's eyes, other than Donghuang Taiyi and Yueshan, everyone else in the school of Yinyang had to obey him. If possible, he sincerely hoped that Yueshan would obey him. However, their abilities were on the same level, and Xing Hun did not have the right to order Yueshan around. Has Your Excellency Donghuang agreed to Lord Xing Hun's plan? Young Master Ming asked calmly. If not, then forgive me for not being able to accept this matter. Even you want to defy me? Xing Hun's eyes turned cold as he said unkindly. Young Master Ming, remember this clearly. Your current superior is me. There is no need to trouble Your Excellency Donghuang with such a small matter. For the future of the school of Yinyang, you have to agree even if you don't want to. Xing Hun's tone was resolute, and it seemed like there was no room for negotiation. You've gone too far. When young Master Ming heard this, her delicate face was filled with unconcealable anger. Although Xing Hun was indeed her superior, and the guardian of the school of Yinyang had a higher status than the elders of the five-spirit Xiantong. Young Master Ming was an elder of the Wood tribe. Although she had a high status, her status and abilities were not as high as Xing Hun's. This matter is decided. When the plan is implemented, I will send someone to inform you. Xing Hun looked coldly at the indignant young Master Ming and brushed past her. His expressionless face did not move. Xing Hun's cold face did not even have a trace of apology, much less guilt. To him, all of this was natural. Natural selection was the survival of the fittest. Because Xing Hun was more powerful than young Master Ming, he could decide her future and even her life. Therefore, Xing Hun completely disregarded young Master Ming's feelings. So what if she felt wronged and resisted? There were too many unfair things in this world. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for being useless. Chapter 1845. Lord Xing Hun, please wait. A crisp immortal voice came out of young Master Ming's mouth, stopping the star souls that were about to leave. Is there anything else? Turning his head to glance at young Master Ming, Xing Hun said in a tone that said there was no room for discussion. If you want to persuade me to give up, you should give up now. No. Young Master Ming felt a chill in her heart, but she still replied coldly. She asked curiously, why don't you look for Great Si Ming for this? Compared to me, she should be more loyal to Lord Xing Hun. Humph. After hearing young Master Ming's words, Xing Hun's chest, which was pierced by dustless, started to hurt again. If it was possible, he even wanted Moon Goddess to seduce Dustless. It would be best if both of them perished together. After all, Moon Goddess was his enemy in the Yinyang school. But the problem was that Xing Hun did not have the right to do so. Great Si Ming was probably drifting away from him, and he could still trust young Master Ming. But Xing Hun glanced at young Master Ming, whose face was covered by a veil. He was sure that although she did not show it, she hated him very much. Forget it, it doesn't matter. Xing Hun thought about it and felt relieved. Anyone would be annoyed if this happened to them. He did not care about young Master Ming's disgust, as long as he could complete the mission. Another wave comes before the first one is over. After a while, Xing Hun left, leaving behind a dejected young Master Ming. Zichen alone was enough to give her a headache. Now there was Dustless, who she had to seduce. Young Master Ming suddenly realized that anyone with the word Chun in their name was not a good person. Night fell, and the sky turned cold. Is this the Yellowstone Heavenly Book? Wu Chen excitedly flipped through the bamboo slip in his hand. It was filled with densely packed characters. Although he couldn't understand a single one of them, his heart was extremely high. The corners of his mouth carried an ecstatic smile. Before coming to this world, the system consciousness Ling had given him a mission to collect the Yellowstone Heavenly Book and Songlong's 7 mansions. Now that the Yellowstone Heavenly Book was in his hands, Chu Nangong sent someone to deliver it 2 hours ago. Next up is bang. At this moment, there was an unusual explosion in front of Dustless's door, and he could also hear the sound of violent coughing. Frowning, Dustless walked out. Due to Dustless's special status, he was different from the other disciples of the Confucian school. Zhang Liang had specially arranged a separate room for Dustless. Although Tianming and Xiaoyu had made such a request, Zhang Liang had mercilessly rejected them. It's you? Sherlan. Lying on the ground was a delicate young girl dressed in night clothes. Her face was slightly pale, and the corners of her mouth were stained with purplish blood. What Dustless was most concerned about was the faintly discernible black aura that appeared between Sherlan's eyebrows. You're poisoned? Dustless asked without hesitation when he recalled that Duan Murong was in the same state last time. Sherlan opened her eyes and stared at Dustless, who was close at hand. When he saw the worried look on her face, he did not know why, but a strange warmth flowed through his heart. It was warm and very comfortable. Ever since her brother had been arrested, she had never felt this way. Did you sneak into the mirage alone? Dustless stared at Sherlan in surprise. Sherlan still did not speak, but she nodded slightly. There was no doubt that Dustless had guessed correctly this time. I told you before that it's very dangerous up there. Your poisoning should have something to do with Yin Zhongjuan, right? Although that guy is responsible for refining the elixir of immortality for Yingzheng, he's actually very good at refining poisons. Without further ado, Dustless quickly dragged Sherlan away. Their destination was the base of the Mo family in Mulberry Sea City. Poisoning was quite tricky, and Dustless could do nothing about it. To detoxify the poison, he first had to help the poisoned person suppress the toxicity, which required some special pills or herbs. Dustless was completely clueless about this. Later, he used internal force to help it force out the venom. True Qi was the most suitable, but unfortunately, Wu Chen didn't understand True Qi. Although chakra or Ryatsu could also be used, these two forces were too violent. If he didn't handle it well, the rock orchid would explode. However, Duan Murong was very good at it. She should be able to cure Sherlan easily. It was not a big problem. By the way, there's also the 100-herb pill that Duan Murong gave me last time. With his eyes lit up, Dustless suddenly took out a jade bottle from his arms, and then fed a few black pills to Sherlan. As for whether it was useful or not, Dustless didn't know. Baichao Dan was most effective before poisoning. Although it was still effective after poisoning, the efficacy was greatly reduced. Dustless was not sure whether it could resist the poison. Zichen, thank you. About a few minutes later, Sherlan spoke. Her eyes were full of crystal light, and her face was full of gratitude. If it weren't for Dustless's help, maybe the people in front of her at this moment would be the black and white impermanence. It's just temporarily suppressed. His right eye twisted and changed. The blue and white Tensigan was exposed to the air, and the changes in Sherlan's bones and meridians were visible to Dustless. Although the poison was not completely removed, it had been steadily suppressed and stopped eroding Sherlan's body. However, this was enough. Dustless could send Sherlan to Duan Murong for treatment before she died of the poison. Chapter 1846. In the depths of the wilderness deep in the mountains and forests, the Mo family was temporarily hiding in this place. Since the Qin army stationed a large number of troops in Mulberry Sea City, the Mo family had to hide in the wilderness. The environment was too remote, but they were happy to be safe. Knock. Knock. Duan Murong, who had fallen asleep, suddenly opened her eyes when she heard the knock on the door. Under the faint moonlight, she could clearly see the blurry figure outside the door. It's the middle of the night. Duan Murong frowned and narrowed her eyes. Out of caution, she was secretly on her guard. Creak. After the door was gently pushed open, Dustless's apologetic face appeared. He said embarrassedly, Miss Duanmu, I'm really sorry for visiting so late at night, but I'd like to trouble you to take a look at this lady. Anyone who barged into a lady's room in the dark of the night would misunderstand. It's okay. Come in for the time being. Duan Murong glanced at the girl in Dustless's arms and nodded slightly. The tiredness in her eyes was gone. She, who was known as the medical sage, could tell at a glance that Sherlan was poisoned. You've done well to suppress the poison in her body. After carefully feeling Sherlan's pulse, Duan Murong praised. This poison is quite strange. I've never seen it before. Miss Duanmu, you must be joking. It's all thanks to your 100-herb pill. Dustless shook his head and then asked. If I'm not wrong, this is the poison of Yun Zhongjuan of the Yinyang family. Yun Zhongjuan. Hearing this, Duan Murong's eyes flashed with a strange light. She seemed to have heard of Yun Zhongjuan's name. The Yun Zhongjuan who is responsible for refining elixirs for King Yingzheng of Qin? Yes, it's him. He's also the owner of the Mirage. Dustless nodded and said. Looking at the pale Sherlan, he guessed that she had rashly entered the Mirage because she was worried about her brother. Although Sherlan's actions were overly reckless, thinking about it, it was also human nature. Dustless could also understand. Their only family member had been taken away by Yun Zhongjuan, and her life was in danger. Anyone would be anxious and worried. Moreover, Yun Zhongjuan was extremely vicious. He even experimented on some people in the Mirage. Detoxifying the poison is not a problem, but the spiritual herbs required are really rare. After taking her pulse in detail, Duan Murong felt a headache coming on. If it was an ordinary poison it would be fine, but the problem was that Yun Zhongjuan was the culprit. This guy refined all kinds of poisons and elixirs, and his formulas were extremely rare, let alone detoxifying them. Tell me about it. Hearing this, Dustless smiled indifferently. In fact, there were many different kinds of elixirs in one place, the Mirage. In order to let Yun Zhongjuan concoct the elixir of immortality, Ying Zheng had harvested a large amount of medicinal herbs and placed them in the Mirage. I do have other spiritual herbs in stock, but I'm missing one thing. Duan Murong glanced at Dustless and sighed. The emerald blood jade leaf flower is a legendary spiritual medicine that can bring the dead back to life. It's priceless. I see. Hearing this, Dustless was not worried at all. Instead, he was full of confidence and raised a finger. At most one day, before sunset tomorrow, I will definitely bring the jasper blood jade leaf flower over. Are you comforting me? Duan Murong questioned with a suspicious look. If it were other spiritual herbs, it might be difficult, but this jasper blood jade leaf flower is ready-made. Dustless smiled mysteriously. He had heard of the jasper blood jade leaf flower before. Moreover, the grandmaster of the Confucian school, Sun Zi, had the jasper blood jade leaf flower, and it was the best one, the 9 Springs jasper blood jade leaf flower. When he returned to the Sage Manor, it was already the next morning. When Dustless planned to visit Sun Zi, he did not expect this robust old man to take the initiative to come to him in a hurry with an extremely strange flattering expression. Little friend Zichen, I heard that you have obtained a supreme treasure, the Yellowstone Heavenly Book. Can you lend it to me for a look? There was no such thing as a wall that did not have a crack. Although Chu Nangong had delivered it in the dead of night, a large number of people had their eyes on the Yellowstone Heavenly Book. During this period, Dustless had secretly killed many people. Welcome, Sun Zi. Please forgive me for not going out to meet you. Seeing this old man looking at him with eager eyes, Dustless felt helpless. The Yellowstone Heavenly Book was too important to him. Just as he was about to refuse, Dustless swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. This is not bad. I also want to see what exactly is inside that incomparably wondrous book. The Yellowstone Heavenly Book was an ancient text. Dustless felt pressured to read it. Only a sage like Sun Zi, who knew about the past and present, could understand the principles behind it. No problem, but I have a condition. Dustless smiled and agreed straightforwardly. There is no harm in saying it. Sun Zi patted his chest when he heard this, looking as if he had something to say. I have a friend who is seriously injured and needs the jasper blood jade leaf flower, so. Dustless stopped and looked at Sun Zi, who seemed to be in a dilemma. His meaning was self-evident. How does this brat know that I have the jasper blood jade leaf flower? Sun Zi was puzzled. After calculating the gains and losses, he finally gritted his teeth and said, Little friend Zichen's friend is my friend. Coincidentally, I have a stock of the jasper blood jade leaf flower. I will hand it over to you later. But this Yellowstone Heavenly Book? Take it. Sun Zi nodded and agreed. Wu Chen directly threw the Yellowstone Heavenly Book to him. However, after Senior Sun Zi has studied the Great Tao in it, you must tell me the full text without changing anything. Moreover, you must return the Yellowstone Heavenly Book to me in the end. Of course, of course. Sun Zi hurriedly promised. This was not a big problem. Although it was painful to lose the jasper blood jade leaf flower, its value was not worth mentioning compared to the Yellowstone Heavenly Book. Although the jasper blood jade leaf flower was rare in the world, there was more than one stock. On the contrary, there was only one Yellowstone Heavenly Book in the world. Chapter 1847. Dustless had expected that Sun Zi would agree to his terms. Although he only agreed to let him use it for reference and would return it in the future, it was already a great honor. Looking at the history of hundreds and thousands of years, how many people had seen this peerless book? Seeing Sun Zi's satisfied expression, Dustless chatted with him for a while. Little friend Zichen, since you're able to defeat Yinyang School's young arbiter Ming and Luonet's slave of 6 swords, your strength makes me feel ashamed. Putting away the Yellowstone Heavenly Book, Sun Zi stroked his beard emotionally. You're too polite. Dustless waved his hand and said humbly, I was just lucky. Lucky. Sun Zi rolled his eyes and chuckled silently. Defeating Slave of Six Swords might be luck, but Inyang School's young Master Ming was definitely not easy to deal with. On that day, Master Sun had once secretly observed the battle between Wu Chen, Li Si, and the others. Truthfully speaking, he felt extremely comfortable in his heart when he saw Li Si's face that was filled with rage from embarrassment, yet just happened to be unable to flare up. Zichen, you must pay attention to Li Si. Sun Zi reminded him out of kindness. The current Li Si is no longer the Li Si who studied under me. In his heart, there is only the Qin dynasty. After becoming the prime minister of the Qin dynasty, Li Si was afraid that Han Fei would threaten his position, and was jealous of his talent. Therefore, he framed Han Fei with false accusations, which led to Han Fei's death in prison. It was worth mentioning that Han Fei was Li Si's classmate. Of course I know that. Dustless nodded. Li Si was indeed talented, but he was too narrow-minded and cared too much about his position. Creak. The half-closed door was gently pushed open and a boy servant walked in respectfully with a brocade box. Zichen, this is the Jasper Blood Jade Leaf Flower. Sun Zi opened the brocade box, and instantly revealed a plant that emitted spiritual energy. Seeing the slightly absent-minded Dustless, Sun Zi said proudly, to be honest, this Jasper Blood Jade Leaf Flower, to be more precise, should be called 9 Springs Jasper Blood Jade Leaf Flower. Its medicinal effects are even stronger. Thank you, Teacher Sun. Dustless accepted the brocade box and thanked him. I'm still in a hurry to save that friend. I'll visit you another day to thank you. In the forested mountains outside Mulberry Sea City, Dustless hummed a little tune as he walked forward. He seemed to be in a pretty good mood as he had obtained the 9 Springs Blood Jade Leaf Flower effortlessly. Furthermore, Sun Zi had even promised to tell him the contents of the Yellowstone Heavenly Book. This was not a loss. This brat is obviously a high-ranking official. Don't let him escape. Boom boom boom. At this moment, the ground in front of him suddenly trembled on a large scale, and he could also hear the sound of fighting. Could it be that someone discovered the Mo family's hidden stronghold? Dustless raised his eyebrows and immediately sped up. This road just so happened to lead to the Mo family. That pretty boy looks a little familiar. A group of fierce-looking mountain bandits were surrounding a handsome young master. This young master's expression was a little nervous, and even the sharp-eyed Dustless could see the cold sweat on his forehead. There were a few corpses around, and they were probably this young master's guards. Could it be him? After carefully examining this young man for a moment, Dustless suddenly felt that this young man was a little familiar, and he was almost exactly the same as a person in his memory. After thinking about the time, he was immediately sure that it was him. Young Master Fusu? After lowering his head in silence for a moment, Dustless unexpectedly revealed this person's identity. In the original work, young Master Fusu was once surrounded by a group of mountain bandits, and the people who saved him were Sun Zi and Tianming. But now, Dustless had waited for it. If you want to complain, you can complain that you are blocking the way. Seeing this group of fierce-looking mountain bandits, Dustless's body flashed, and he turned into a stream of light and flew out. In an instant, a large shining sword appeared in his hand. Like a tiger that had entered a flock of sheep, he started a crushing massacre. Poochie, Poochie, Poochie. Every time he raised his blade, a head would fall to the ground. In just a few minutes, hundreds of bandits were slaughtered. Many of the bandits who escaped the net fled in all directions like birds startled by the twang of a bow when they saw Dustless's terrifying strength. Thank you, Benefactor, for saving us. Seeing Dustless's powerful strength, Fusu, who was stunned for a moment, thanked him emotionally. Benefactor, what is your name? Where do you live? I will definitely visit you to thank you in the future. There is no need to go through so much trouble. These mountain bandits were just blocking my way, so I just took care of them. Dustless only glanced at Dustless before leaving him with his back. Even without Fusu, these mountain bandits would probably come out to rob Dustless. What a strange person. Fusu's thick black eyebrows frowned together. Although Dustless did not have a surface identity, but he had an impression of the scholarly disciple's clothes. Boom boom boom. After the massacre, the quiet sky started raging again. A large group of fire cavalry from the state of Qin swarmed over. and the general leading the way was Great General Meng Tian. "Young master, please forgive me for being late." Seeing that Fu Su was safe, Meng Tian heaved a sigh of relief. If anything happened to Fu Su, the head on his neck would also be removed. "You are guilty. To think that there are so many bandits in the middle of the wilderness in broad daylight. Your position as the great general is too secure." Seeing Meng Tian kneel, Fu Su did not give him a good face and loudly reprimanded. "If not for that benefactor, I would have been cut into pieces by those mountain bandits. I am guilty, I deserve to die." Hearing this, Meng Tian broke out in cold sweat. He secretly glanced at the drifting figure in front of him, and his eyes suddenly lit up. "Young master, I know that guy. He is Zichun from the Confucian school." Chapter 1848. He really is from the Confucian school. Hearing this, Fu Su suddenly understood and said emotionally, "I'll go to the Confucian school soon. His name is Z." "Wait." Fu Su's eyes shone brightly as he suddenly asked, "I heard that the Confucian school disciple who took the Yellowstone Heavenly Book from Li Si is also called Zichun." "Yes, young master." Meng Tian did not deny it. She then looked at the corpses on the ground and said with certainty, "A young master who is so strong that it's unreliable. There's probably only that Zichun in the Confucian school. No wonder he could embarrass Li Si. He is indeed a genius. On the surface, that Zichun is definitely not more than 20 years old. Such a genius should be used by the empire." Fu Su's eyes shone brightly, giving off a brilliant light. "Young master, that doesn't seem possible." Meng Tian laughed bitterly and explained the grudge between little Saint Zhuang Li Si and Dustless. How can he blame others for falling into his trap? After listening to Meng Tian's narration, Fu Su did not sympathize with Li Si. Instead, he sneered. If he wasn't overconfident, he wouldn't have failed. Li Si is the one who looks down on others. How can he be willing to accept others? That's true." Hearing Fu Su's cold voice, Meng Tian could only shut her mouth. If she spoke for Li Si now, she might be in trouble too. Shanghai's Little Saint Manor is the holy land of all scholars. If I have time, I have to pay my respects. Fu Su's eyes were filled with longing. "But young master," seeing Fu Su's expression, Meng Tian carefully said, "Young master, forgive me for being blunt. Last time, Lord Li had a big conflict with the Confucian school. Although he was fine in the end, I suggest." "Enough, I know what you want to say. Do you think that those scholars will assassinate me?" Fu Su snorted and waved his hand calmly. "I appreciate General Meng's good intentions, but I have an expert helping me this time. It's fine." "Expert?" Hearing this, Meng Tian looked at Fu Su in surprise. Then, she decisively shut her mouth. Fu Su was furious, so it was better to talk less. The Confucian school's stronghold. "Miss Duanmu, I've brought the item." Dustless rushed into Duanmu Rong's room without stopping. The first thing he saw was Duanmu Rong carefully taking care of Sherlan on the bed. He could even smell the bitter smell of medicine. So fast. Duanmu Rong looked at Dustless in astonishment. Dustless had only disappeared for a few hours, and he had already brought back the legendary elixir, the Jade Blood Jade Leaf Flower. Duanmu Rong didn't dare to praise his speed. "Like I said before, I have stock." Dustless handed the viridescent Blood Jade Leaf Flower to Duanmu Rong before pouring himself a cup of tea. He then looked out the window and asked, "Speaking of which, where are the Snow Maidens and Master Ban? They don't seem to be here." Upon hearing this, Duanmu Rong suddenly pulled Dustless over. Seeing that there was no one around, she whispered, "I don't know the exact situation either. Everyone was called over by Zifang." "Ovary? You mean Zhang Liang?" Dustless was even more confused. He asked, "When did he come?" "I remember that he said that as the third master of the Confucian family, Zhang Liang would do his best to avoid suspicion and reduce the number of meetings with the school of Mo. Why did he suddenly come? Did something big happen?" In Dustless's heart, Zifang, or Zhang Liang, was also not a good person. Of course, he wasn't a bad person, but he also had designs on the 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon. Therefore, whether Zhang Liang was good or bad, it didn't matter to Dustless. In this world, Anyone who had designs on the 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon was Dustless's enemy. There was no distinction between good and bad. Anyone related to the 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon would fight to the death. It was that simple. What did he want from the school of Mo? Dustless asked calmly as he put down the teacup in his hand. I don't know the details. After glancing at Dustless, Duanmu Rong then glanced at the secluded room in the distance and said, It seems that everyone is discussing some secret plan. I guess it's to deal with the Qin state. Deal with the Qin state? Miss Duanmu, although you look strong on the surface, sometimes you are too naive. Dustless shook his head slightly and sighed. What do you mean? Duanmu Rong frowned and looked at Dustless. With some dissatisfaction and anger, she said, Do you think they are hiding something from me? I don't know if they are hiding something from you, but... Dustless's eyes narrowed slightly as he analyzed wisely. They must have something they don't want you to know. If they are really discussing how to deal with the Qin state, is there a need to hide it from you? Moreover, you are one of the commanders of the school of Mo. They deliberately excluded you from this circle. Isn't it to hide it from you? Dustless's eyes were silent as he asked calmly. Looking at Duanmu Rong, whose cheeks were a little stiff, he guessed in his heart. Maybe I have implicated her. Everyone in the school of Mo knew that Duanmu Rong and Dustless had an extraordinary relationship. Maybe they just wanted to hide it from Dustless, so they avoided Duanmu Rong. However, Zhang, you are too self-righteous. What in the world can be hidden from me? Especially when you're doing it right under my nose. How ignorant. Dustless suddenly sneered. And then his left eye changed rapidly, and a purple reincarnation Sharingan appeared. Tomb of Samsara, Border Prison. Dustless's shadow was not only powerful in attack, but also in spying. No one could find it. Chapter 1849. There is no doubt that the power of Tomb of Samsara, Border Prison, is unparalleled in the world. Whether it is a pure attack or other aspects, it is an unparalleled existence. For example, in the current investigation, only people who have Rinnegan and 6 paths of immortality can realize the existence of Dustless's shadow. It is completely naked cheating. Even if he punched Zhang Liang, no one will notice. Maybe this kid will think that it was a ghost who punched him. You smile so slyly. Seeing Dustless's evil smile, as if he found a fun toy, Duanmu Rong felt uncomfortable. Slyly? Maybe. But it doesn't matter. It is normal to use special means in special times. Dustless replied disapprovingly. Perhaps he is used to being thick-skinned. He doesn't feel that he is too much. Suit yourself. You can go out for a while. I'm going to treat this little girl. Duanmu Rong ordered him to leave and immediately pushed Wu Chen out without any trace of politeness. Blood Jade Leaf Flower. 9 Spring Blood Jade Leaf Flower. After opening the brocade box, Duanmu Rong was surprised to find that this Blood Jade Leaf Flower has 9 leaves. Its efficacy is several times that of ordinary Blood Jade Leaf Flower. Staring at the sleeping girl, she said, It seems that your position in Dustless's heart is not comparable to ordinary people. Then Duanmu Rong began to prepare the necessary medicine to treat Sherlan. As for Dustless, he was silently peeping. I want to see what tricks you are going to play. With a sneer, Dustless controlled the shadow to approach the room where Zhang Liang and the people of Mo family were talking. Everyone, what do you think of my plan? In the room with a slightly depressed atmosphere, Zhang Liang looked at the people of Mo family seriously. Their expressions were a little heavy, and their eyes were flickering. It seems that they are making a very difficult decision. Zhang Liang's plan is to cooperate with Wei Zhuang's countercurrent sand. Everyone, I don't need to say the current situation. I think you all know that we have reached the edge of the cliff. The power of Qin Kingdom is far beyond our imagination. If we are not careful, we may be crushed. Zhang Liang continued to persuade them. Please don't forget that although Wei Zhuang used to be on the opposite side of the Mo family, he is also a Korean. Like me, he is a noble in Korea. Wei Zhuang's close friend, Han Fei, was killed by Li Si. There is also a grudge between them. No wonder this kid has a secret meeting behind my back. Through the news from the shadow, Wu Chen sneered and scoffed at Zhang Liang's plan. No wonder he wanted to hide it from him. As everyone knows, Dustless and Wei Zhuang had a grudge against Wei Zhuang. Several of Quicksand's experts were all killed by Dustless. Zhang Liang was probably afraid that Wu Chen would strongly object if he knew about it. But Wei Zhuang is related to Jizi's death. Gao Jianli took a step forward. He didn't like Wei Zhuang and said coldly, "If it weren't for Wei Zhuang and Zhu Yuqianya, our mechanical city wouldn't have been breached in just one day. A lot of Mo family disciples died. This is all Wei Zhuang's masterpiece. He is fully responsible." "That's reasonable." Old Man Ban, Teacher Su, and the Snow Maiden nodded in agreement. "Everyone, I know what the death of Mo family's Jizi means to you all." Zhang Liang smiled slightly. His calm demeanor seemed to indicate that he had anticipated what the Mo family would say. He analyzed, "But don't forget that it was Wu Chen's one-sided statement to say that the giant was killed by the Qin soldiers. Until now, there is no conclusive evidence to point out that the Qin soldiers or Wei Zhuang killed the Mo family's giant. Do you think it is possible?" Zhang Liang's eyes shone with shrewdness. He said wisely, "Someone deliberately killed Mo family's Jizi and framed Wei Zhuang and the Qin soldiers. This Zhang Liang. Letting him live is indeed a disaster." Wu Chen, who was eavesdropping, couldn't help but be stunned. He had long heard that Zhang Liang was extraordinarily intelligent. Now that he had seen it, he really lived up to his reputation. The death of the Mo family's great son was actually not a soldier of the Qin state or Wei Zhuang. The main culprit of all this was actually Dustless. "Mr. Zhang Liang, your words seem to point to Senior Dustless." Gunye frowned as he looked at Zhang Liang. Even though he did not explain in detail, most of the people in the Mo family's mechanical city had been attacked, and almost all of them had been injured. Even those who had not been injured had been killed by Qi Lian's 1,000 Knights of Doves. Other than Wei Zhuang's Lu Sha, the Qin soldiers, and Dustless were still active. If Zhang Liang's guess was correct and the culprit was not Lu Sha or the Qin soldiers, then there was only one person left, Dustless. "Zifang, although the Mo family is grateful that you saved us, I hope that you won't speak carelessly." Master Ban suddenly said unhappily, "If it wasn't for Dustless, the Mo family would have been destroyed. Everyone knows this." "That's right. Dustless has no reason to harm us." The honest Big Hammer chimed in. On the other hand, Gao Jianli was silent. He suddenly thought of something and had some doubts about Wu Chen. However, when he saw that everyone believed in Wu Chen's appearance and that he didn't have any evidence, he tactfully shut his mouth in the end. A fox will eventually reveal its tail. Gao Jianli's expression didn't change, but he had made up his mind to observe Dustless closely. After thinking about it carefully, Gao Jianli suddenly realized that some things were too coincidental. When Wu Chen appeared, a series of unlucky things started to happen to the Mo family. No matter if it was a coincidence or if there was a hidden agenda, it was worth paying attention to. Moreover, Gao Jianli also understood that what Zhang Liang said was an out-and-out fact. The death of the Mo clan's great son was completely fabricated by Wu Chen alone. Whether or not there were other shady scenes, only God knew. Chapter 1850. That D*****M and Zhang Liang. He's not easy to deal with. Doesn't he know that the smarter he is, the faster he dies? He doesn't have any self-awareness at all. Dustless stared at Zhang Liang. His vigilance against him increased exponentially. Although Zhang Liang's strength was average, his intelligence was shockingly high. No wonder he had helped Liu Bang defeat Xiangyu and establish the Han dynasty. It was undeniable that he had some skills. However, no matter what he shouldn't have done, he shouldn't have set his sights on the 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon. In this way, he'd become Wu Chen's enemy as well. Under that terrifying strength, what could a so-called scheme count as? "Brat, look at how excited you are. Let me teach you a lesson first, so that you can soothe your mouth." Dustless looked at the eloquent Zhang Liang and could not help but smirk. He controlled the shadow to sneak up beside Zhang Liang. Bang! At that moment, Zhang Liang was ambushed like never before. He fell flat on his back and was caught off guard. "Who ambushed me?" Zhang Liang's face darkened as he roared angrily. "Ambush?" Hearing this, The Mo family members were speechless. In their eyes, no one had seen anyone ambush Zhang Liang. Instead, he had fallen to the ground for no reason. Zifeng, are you feeling unwell? You fell on your own. No one ambushed you. You know the Mo family's teachings. Ambushing is not something we would do. Old Man Ban looked at the embarrassed Zhang Liang strangely. He did not understand what this guy was trying to do. He had fallen on his own, but he was blaming others for ambushing him. Was he crazy? I didn't see anyone ambush him either. Gunya nodded. He was also puzzled. You guys too? Zhang Liang looked at the Mo family members. Everyone nodded in unison. None of them had seen anyone ambush Zhang Liang. They had not even seen anyone make a move. This is really F***ket up. Hearing this, Zhang Liang cursed in his heart. He had never believed in ghosts, but now he could not help but be suspicious. Forget it. Zhang Liang remembered that he still had something important to talk about, so he could only make light of the small matter. He rubbed his sore buttocks and saw a bench on the left. Zhang Liang walked over and sat down. Everyone, what are your plans? Are you going to? Bang. Unexpectedly, before Zhang Liang could sit down, the bench automatically moved away. Plop. Zhang Liang's but missed, and his body fell to the ground. After his face twitched, it became even more unsightly. Don't tell me this is an accident. After being played twice in a row, Zhang Liang finally could no longer maintain his calm. He said coldly, everyone from the Mo family, if you don't want to form an alliance, you can just say so. Why must you continuously humiliate me? Serves you right for daring to expose me to the end. Continue to wait for my revenge. Dustless, who was hiding in the dark, had an unconcealable smile on his face. Zhang Liang's two embarrassing moments were naturally caused by him. Who asked this guy to point the spearhead of Yin Dan's death at him? A moving chair? Is it Master Ban's latest creation? Master Fan of the Xiang clan of the Chu Kingdom exclaimed. The Mo family is indeed a famous family in the world. They can even make such a strange thing. Perhaps others did not see it just now, but Master Fan saw it very clearly. The moment Zhang Liang sat down, the bench seemed to have grown legs and moved away by itself. This has nothing to do with me. Seeing everyone looking at him strangely, Master Ban hurriedly explained. How can an old man like me make such a thing? Do you think I have nothing better to do? I don't have so much time. When he found that everyone was looking at him suspiciously, Master Ban wanted to cry but had no tears. He said that he had done nothing. Enough. I'll just stand, Zhang Liang said in a cold tone, with a gloomy face. Being kicked by someone could be treated as the work of a ghost or an illusion. However, being tricked by someone else again, anyone would feel depressed. She was kicked and fell, and that was all she needed to do. What was worse was that he did not even know who the murderer was. Zhang Liang suddenly felt that he was a tragedy. In order to prove my innocence, I agree with the Mo family and Wei Zhuang. Originally, Master Ban had resisted the idea of forming an alliance with Wei Zhuang, but now, in order to explain himself to Qin Bai, Master Ban was ready to risk everything. I also agree. Gao Jianli stood on Master Ban's side, unexpectedly choosing to form an alliance with Wei Zhuang. As for Snow Lady, she did not say much. Everyone knew about her relationship with Gao Jianli, so she decisively supported Gao Jianli. Sigh, in that case, I can only go with the flow. With a sigh, Daoji also decisively stood next to Master Ban. Obviously, he also agreed to form an alliance with Wei Zhuang's Quicksand. Now only Big Iron Hammer and Teacher Su were left. Even if they refused, it would be useless. The votes were 4-2. So forming an alliance with Wei Zhuang's Quicksand was a done deal. Mo family, you will regret this. Seeing this, Dustless, who was watching in the dark, withdrew his shadow. The alliance between Wei Zhuang and the Mo family was actually expected. The only surprise was that they did not expect the alliance to happen so early. In the original work, even though the Mo family and Quicksand had countless grievances, after Zhang Liang's matchmaking, in the end, the two sides colluded, and Quicksand went from an enemy to an ally. This was not a coincidence. It was inevitable. If the Mo family continued to be isolated, Even with the help of Confucianism and Taoism, it was destined that they would not be able to survive alone. Cooperation was going with the flow. Chapter 1851. Zhang Liang Gao Jianli Wei Zhuang. I can't believe such a weird combination is actually together. Through the observation of the shadow, Dustless could clearly see the relationship between the three of them. Wei Zhuang and Zhang Liang were fine since they had been colluding with each other for a long time, so Dustless was not surprised. On the other hand, Gao Jianli's behavior made Dustless feel rather strange. Gao Jianli seemed to have sensed that something was wrong. I'll find a suitable opportunity to kill all of you. Dustless's expression gradually turned cold, and his eyes glowed with a demonic bloodlust. He was not a kind person to begin with, and he had always been clear about his grudges. He would definitely kill anyone who had a grudge against him, especially since Zhang Liang and Wei Zhuang were scheming against the 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon. How could Dustless let them go? As for Gao Jianli, it seemed like he wanted to investigate the death of the Mo family's magnate. Since their relationship was so deep, Dustless could only send Gao Jianli to heaven to meet the Mo family's magnate. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. On this day, many guests came to the Mo family's stronghold, and Dustless happened to be there as well. In the past few days, Dustless often returned to the Mo family's stronghold. With his speed, it was only a matter of seconds. As long as he left the Flying Thunder God Sorcerer on Duanmurong, he could be summoned at any time. Wei Zhuang's quicksand. This time, no one stopped the people who rashly barged into the Mo family's stronghold, because the leader was Zhang Liang. Behind him were Wei Zhuang, and the other members of Quicksand, Qi Lian Bai Feng, and the rest were all there, as well as the eerie Black Qilin. Mr. Zhang Liang, please invite Quicksand over. At this moment, Dustless was the first to speak. He stared at Zhang Liang and said with a smile, "Could it be that you want to take my head?" Dustless's sudden words made the atmosphere very awkward. "I'm not here to fight with you." After a moment of silence, Quicksand's boss Wei Zhuang replied calmly. It was worth mentioning that after Wei Zhuang's demon sword, Shark Tooth, had been destroyed by Dustless during the battle at the Mo family's mechanical city, Wei Zhuang had stolen Gunia's script. Now he was using a decent-looking wooden sword. "You have to be able to defeat me first." Dustless disdainfully curled his lips. He could not intervene in the matters between the Mo family and the Quicksand. After all, he was just an outsider, not a disciple of the Mo family. Even if the Mo family suddenly decided to join the Qin Empire, Dustless had no right to intervene. Haha. A seductive laugh came from Qi Lian's mouth. She smiled sweetly and asked, "Mr. Dustless, you destroyed Lord Wei Zhuang's shark tooth last time. Don't you plan to compensate for it?" Compensation? Dustless frowned slightly and looked at Qi Lian. Then he said lazily, "I'm all alone in this world. Firstly, I have no money. Secondly, I have no power. I'm a pauper. If you want me to compensate, you can only take my life. However, when you come to take my life, I won't just sit there and wait for it." Dustless added, "Princess Red Lotus Qi Lian, Brother Dustless, from now on we're all on the same side. There's no need to be so calculative. Leave the matter of Wei Zhuang's sword to me." Zhang Liang saw that there was a strong smell of gunpowder in the air, and hurriedly tried to smooth things over. If this continued, both sides might start killing each other again. "You're a smiling tiger. You're the one who caused all of this. Now you dare to pretend to be innocent. Indeed, scholars are the scariest when they're shameless." Seeing Zhang Liang's sad and regretful appearance, Dustless felt a strong sense of disgust for him. He couldn't help but ridicule him in his heart. "Zhang Liang, this guy. You should just go and be a movie king. If you didn't collude with Wei Zhuang, how could you have ended up in this situation?" Our Quicksand has no objection to Zifang's words. "I'm just afraid that someone will really get angry." Qi Lian gently pursed her rose-petal-like red lips. Her tone was very enchanting. She was like a fairy giggling continuously. However, her eyes were filled with a cold light. "There are still many classes in the Sage Manor this afternoon. Everyone, I'll take my leave first." Dustless glanced at the members of Quicksand one by one. Then he glanced at Zhongliang, Gao Jianli, and the others. Then he disappeared into the wilderness alone. Master Ban, why did you hide the news of your alliance with Quicksand from me? Duanmurong's sullen tone spread. The members of the Mo family were slightly embarrassed. Master Ban, who was questioned by Duanmurong, had a face full of misfortune. Why didn't you ask so many people? Are you making things difficult for an old man like me? Old Man Ban smiled bitterly in his heart. Staring at Duanmurong, he could only reluctantly explain, Miss Rong has been busy treating that little girl recently. We hid it from you to prevent you from being distracted. That's right. Big Hammer and the others immediately scrambled to nod, fearing that Duanmurong would catch them red-handed. Is that so? Then shouldn't I thank everyone? Duanmurong's cold gaze swept over the commanders of the Mo family. She also understood the current predicament of the Mo family. To a certain extent, she could understand the actions of Old Man Ban and the others, but they forgot the consequences of doing so. It may be a good thing to temporarily advance and retreat with Quicksand, but have you ever thought that we may lose another important ally? The Mo family abandoned Dustless and chose Quicksand. Hearing this, the members of the Mo family suddenly fell silent. The fish is what I want. The bear's paw is also what I want. I can't have both, only one. Zhang Liang smiled faintly and replied with a classic Confucian answer. This was normal. Wanting to have a foot in two boats was tantamount to a dream. Abandoning one of them was inevitable. Chapter 1852. Mr. Zhang Liang, forgive me for being blunt, but I don't think your words are appropriate. Duanmurong looked at Zhang Liang calmly. She had some understanding of the origin of this sentence, but Zhang Liang had completely distorted its meaning. This paragraph came from Mencius. The general meaning of the original text was that justice was more important than life, and advocated sacrificing one's life for righteousness. Mencius was kind by nature and believed that everyone has a heart of shame and evil. People should maintain their kind nature and strengthen their daily cultivation and education. They should not do anything that goes against etiquette. In short, the person who was abandoned should be the synonym of evil. Could it be that in Mr. Zhang Liang's eyes, Dustless is more evil than Wei Zhuang? So we should abandon Dustless and choose Wei Zhuang? In the face of Duanmurong's questioning, Zhang Liang just frowned and did not speak. In fact, in Zhang Liang's eyes, Wei Zhuang was indeed more trustworthy than Dustless. What he said just now was his true thoughts. Dustless's identity and origin were unknown. It was impossible to tell whether he was a friend or foe. It was only natural that he should be abandoned. At least Zhang Liang knew Wei Zhuang's background, while Dustless seemed to be hiding in a fog. It was difficult to see his true position. Miss Duanmu, there's no need for you to care about such things. I'm not deliberately targeting anyone. The reason why I recommended Lu Sha to everyone was to unite and deal with the state of Qin. As for being hostile to Wu Chun, that's even more groundless. Zhang Liang argued wittily. Even if he was hostile to Dustless, he would not say it out loud. Groundless may not be without reason. Leaving such a sentence, Duanmurong left with an ugly expression. Although she knew that the alliance between the Mo family and Quicksand was forced by the terrible situation, it was a sudden alliance. Even Duanmurong was somewhat against it, let alone Dustless. After all, in the Battle of Mechanical City, a large number of disciples of the Mo family died because of Wei Zhuang. At this moment, in another direction, above the endless sea, the gigantic mirage was moving slowly. It was similar to a sea test, but it was not a real voyage. It was just testing the performance of the mirage. This ship is ridiculously big. I clearly killed that old man Gongshuqiu. How can this mirage still be activated? I remember that I even destroyed his heart. In a certain elegant room, Dustless was lazily admiring the cherry blossoms in the courtyard. Beside him stood two peerless beauties. Although both of them had cold faces, they were still pretty good. It was the moon god and great Sea Ming. Gongshuqiu turned himself into a mechanical puppet. But how did you appear on the mirage? The moon goddess looked around and saw the carefree Dustless. she said with confusion. The elusive mirage has been in the sea for the past few days. Navigation in the surrounding sea is forbidden. Don't tell me you flew here. TSK, you are indeed the moon god. You are indeed wise. Your guess is pretty close. Dustless looked at the moon god with a chuckle. Immediately, he pulled Great Sea Ming's right arm and opened it. A special symbol appeared on the snow-white arm. This is the Flying Thunder God Warlock. You can treat it as a spatial coordinate. Even if you are at the end of the world, you can instantly meet someone with my Flying Thunder God Warlock. It is not accurate to say that it is flying. This is a method of spatial movement. Dustless smiled. The Flying Thunder God Warlock was indeed a very convenient ninjutsu. Such a magical skill. Great Sea Ming and Moon God looked at Dustless in shock. This guy was simply the synonym of omnipotence. It seemed that there was nothing that he could not do. Why did you come to the Mirage? After all, Moon God was also a guardian of the Yin-Yang school. Thinking of their current location, she said uneasily. This is the Mirage. Yun Zhongjun, Xing-hun, Young Si-ming, and other experts are all on this ship. I need you to help me complete a task. Dustless let out a heavy breath and said coldly. Those idiots from the Mo family actually joined forces with Wei Zhuang. They are really digging their own graves. I will tell you the location. By then the Yin-Yang school will eliminate Wei Zhuang. It would be best if you can eliminate Zhang Liang as well. Aren't you from the Mo family? Great Sea Ming asked in surprise. Dustless was too evil. He actually wanted to kill him. Who told you that I am from the Mo family? If I am from the Mo family, I will definitely not join forces with Wei Zhuang's Lu Sha and Zhang Liang. These two also have their eyes on the 7 constellations of Azure Dragon. Dustless rolled his eyes and snorted. Immediately he said in a deep voice, I have a good relationship with Duan Murong from the Mo family. Snow Girl is also somewhat familiar with me. As for the others, I don't have much connection with them. But even if I do, no matter who they are, no matter what force they are from, anyone who dares to snatch the 7 constellations of Azure Dragon, from me will definitely die. Hearing Dustless's murderous tone, the Moon Goddess and Great Sea Ming looked at each other and lowered their heads at the same time. If we directly attack you, you may be exposed. Wei Zhuang and the Mo family have just formed an alliance, and the Yin-Yang school is looking for trouble. This is too much of a coincidence. Zhang Liang is smart and cunning. He will definitely see through the existence of a mole. Great Sea Ming frowned worriedly. She and Dustless had already done that, so it was normal for her to be worried about him. This is very simple. Dustless smiled disapprovingly and said calmly, I have thought about this before. The Yin-Yang school deliberately sent a Black Dragon scroll, which was intercepted by Wei Zhuang's people. With Old Ban's ability, it is only a matter of time before he deciphered the Black Dragon scroll. He just needs to put a trap in the scroll and wait for Wei Zhuang to come to his death. Chapter 1853. Although the plan is a little rough and shallow, it's still alright. Moon Goddess reluctantly agreed. Rough and shallow. Hearing this, Dustless's eyes darkened. He stared at the indifferent Moon Goddess and could not help but feel a little conflicted. Was she praising him or mocking him? You have to be careful. Xing-hun has already treated you as a sore point. Dong Huangtai has also started to notice you. Great Sea Ming reminded. Ever since she became Dustless's subordinate, she had started to call Dong Huangtai by his name. Is that so? That brat misses me so much? Dustless rubbed his chin, then stretched his body and said casually, let's put aside the matter of Xing-hun and Dong Huangtai for now. It's best if we can get rid of Wei Zhuang and Lu Sha as soon as possible. Those people are too much of an eyesore. With you as a hidden pawn, if they still want to live peacefully, they are really lucky. Moon Goddess looked at Dustless confidently, and could not help but sympathize with Wei Zhuang and the rest. She sighed and said, the enemy is scary, but it's nothing compared to the traitor. Speaking of which, how is you recently? Dustless suddenly asked as he looked at the sky full of cherry blossoms. Ever since she met Dong Huangtai, her name has been changed to Jiru Qianlong. She is now studying the illusory sound treasure box in detail. Moon Goddess explained in detail. With me watching over her, you can rest assured. Remember, be careful of Xing-hun. This brat is also very curious about you. With that, Dustless's body emitted a dazzling golden light and disappeared from Moon Goddess and Great Sea Ming's eyes. Confucian School, Shaoxing Manor. When he returned from the elusive mirage, Dustless met Zhang Liang at the entrance of Shaoxing Manor. When he saw Dustless, he was overjoyed. When he saw that there was no one around, he asked, "That's strange. Brother Dustless left before me. Why did you only arrive at Shaoxing Manor now?" Well, Dustless pondered for a moment. He couldn't just say that he was going to discuss with the school of Yinyang about how to set them up, could he? The scenery of the Sang Sea is beautiful. It can be said to be a paradise on earth. I was focused on admiring the scenery along the way, and arrived a little late. Dustless casually found an excuse. In any case, Zhang Liang would not be easily convinced. Since that was the case, he might as well give him a perfunctory answer. Prince Fu Su came to find you, saying that he wants to thank you for saving his life. Zhang Liang leaned close to Dustless's ear and whispered, "Brother Dustless, forgive me for being blunt, but you actually saved the Empire's crown prince. This is truly shocking. I thought you would. You think I will kill Fu Su?" Glancing at Fu Su, who was implying something, Wu Chen said softly, "Zi Fang, although I have killed countless people, but I have my principles. If he is my enemy, I will definitely not let him off. Those who dared to plot against him would also die. Those who have a conflict of interest will also not let him off." But Fu Su was not one of these factors. Dustless would also not kill him casually. If you kill Fu Su, the Empire will definitely suffer heavy losses. Zhang Liang revealed a pitiful expression and said regretfully, "Everyone in the world knows that Fu Su is the chosen successor of Ying Zheng. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." "So what?" "Zi Fang, you are mistaken about one thing." Dustless organized his thoughts and used a demarcating tone to say, "I do not belong to the Mo family. Similarly, I am not a member of the anti-Qin forces. Whether the Qin kingdom is destroyed or continues to prosper, it has nothing to do with me." "You." Zhang Liang's deep eyes flashed with a trace of blame. These words undoubtedly showed Dustless's position. "What right do you have to talk about me?" Seeing Zhang Liang's slightly unhappy expression, Dustless laughed in his heart. Zhang Liang was also the two-faced type. It was hard to determine whether he was good or evil. Although this kid had helped the Mo family and was in cahoots with Wei Zhuang, his relationship with Li Si was unclear. Li Si even referred to Zhang Liang as an old friend. In short, in Dustless's eyes, Zhang Liang was an extremely complicated person who was inextricably linked to every faction. Let's talk about this later. In short, I feel that Fu Su has come today with ill intentions. I'm afraid that he has come to force the Confucian school to express their stance, Zhang Liang said worriedly. He was only the third head of the Confucian school. The real decision-maker was Fu Nian, and Zhang Liang was only secretly helping the Mo family. Express their stance? Dustless muttered and said bluntly, "Is this forcing the Confucian school to stand on the side of the Qin kingdom?" Apart from that, Fu Su probably wants to learn from something important. Zhang Liang stared at Dustless with burning eyes and advised, "From what I see, Fu Su is also interested in the Yellowstone Heavenly Book. I guess that he is mainly here for it. So I advise you to give it to Fu Su. Otherwise you will be in trouble." "I'll be in trouble?" Dustless revealed a look of disdain. Zhang Liang was not afraid of Dustless being in trouble, but the Confucian school. After all, Dustless was now a disciple of the Confucian school, and would definitely implicate the Confucian school. In other words, Dustless and Li Si are here to find trouble? Dustless calmly asked. His hoarse voice made Zhang Liang feel uneasy. This scourge really shouldn't have been brought into the Confucian school. Zhang Liang was filled with regret. When Dustless joined the Confucian school, he had strongly opposed it. However, his arm was stronger than the thigh, so he finally compromised and allowed Dustless to join the Confucian school. Now that Dustless did not agree to hand over the Yellowstone Heavenly Book, what if he angered Dustless and even tried to assassinate Fu Su? The little sage manor would definitely be destroyed. Zhang Liang's intestines were green with regret. Looking at Dustless's face, he was simply inviting a wolf into the house. Chapter 1854. At the end of the day, Zhang Liang was still a disciple of the Confucian school and the third head. He could not watch Dustless kill the Confucian school without doing anything. He could only continue to persuade him. Brother Dustless, why do you care about that legendary thing? Are you sure you can understand the Yellowstone Heavenly Book? How can you understand something so profound? Zhang Liang was not looking down on or mocking Dustless. Everyone in the Little Saint Manor knew that Dustless was strong but illiterate. It was already difficult for him to write his name in Xiaozhuan, not to mention the profound Yellowstone Heavenly Book, which was an ancient language. I won't bother Zifang this time. You are going to be disappointed. Dustless shrugged and explained. To be honest, the Yellowstone Heavenly Book I won last time was taken away by Sun Fuzi. After he comprehended it, he will share the contents with me. You are in trouble. Hearing this, Zhang Liang could no longer keep calm and said irritably, Martial Uncle has a strange temperament. I am afraid he will not listen to Prince Fusu. So, you should let nature take its course, Zifang. Patting Zhang Liang's shoulder, Dustless stepped into the Little Saint Manor. When you see Prince Fusu later, you must be careful with your words. Do not speak nonsense. Remember that you are now a disciple of the Confucian school. Every action and every word represents the face of the Little Saint Manor. Compared to Dustless, who was gloating, Zhang Liang's handsome face was as ugly as it could be. Especially when Dustless jumped up and down. It gave Zhang Liang a headache. Fusu is here, you should at least be nervous. Could it be that other than Fusu, there is another great person? When I came back, I did not see the heavy armored soldiers of the Qin kingdom. This means that the Qin army that came to the Little Saint Manor this time is very rare. But they should all be experts. After all, that guy is the prince, the future heir of the empire. While appreciating the pleasant scenery of flowers and plants, Wu Chen asked casually, is he a Taoist? How did you know? Zhang Liang raised his voice several times louder than before, and a look of shock surfaced on his face. If he remembered correctly, Dustless should have just returned. The moment he stepped into Little Saint Manor, he guessed that it was Fusu's follower. How could Zhang Liang not be shocked? This is very simple. I also know that they should be from the Heaven sect of Taoism, right? The Human sect is an ally of the school of Mo. So it is reasonable for their archenemy, the Heaven sect, to join the Qin kingdom's camp. Dustless calmly explained. In his mind, an image of a beautiful girl appeared. This time there is indeed an extraordinary person who came along with Fusu. Zhang Liang nodded woodenly. Then he said in a troubled tone, First senior brother can deal with the Heaven sect's sect master, Xiaomeng. However, her seniority is higher than mine and my two senior brothers. Only Martial Uncle can compete with her. It really is her. Hearing this, Dustless was enlightened. Seeing the figure in front of him, he quickened his pace and walked over. At the same time, the Moon God and Great Sea Ming followed Dustless's plan, and ordered a group of Qin soldiers to leave with the Black Dragon Scroll. They purposely let the school of Mo or Wei Zhuang discover their whereabouts. Soon, the fish took the bait and snatched the Black Dragon Scroll away. These people from the school of Mo are so stupid. Wei Zhuang is not as good as Dustless in all aspects, but these idiots chose to abandon Dustless and join forces with Wei Zhuang. How foolish. On the peak of the mountain, Great Sea Ming and the Moon God stood side by side. The battle in the valley below had already ended, and the school of Mo had the absolute advantage. In less than half an hour, hundreds of Qin soldiers were killed by the people from the school of Mo and the people from the quicksand. This is human nature. In their eyes, Dustless is just one person, while Wei Zhuang is the leader of a force. Moreover, he is a noble of Korea and has a feud with the Qin kingdom. With Zhang Liang's persuasion, it is normal for the school of Mo to side with Wei Zhuang. Moon God coldly said, It is a shame. You gave up the sky and chose to live in hell. The actions of the people from the school of Mo can no longer be described with the word foolish. No wonder Dustless refused to be the leader of the school of Mo. The doctrine of this sect does not suit him. There is a fundamental problem. It is only a matter of time before it is destroyed. In fact, as the moon god said, in the future the school of Mo would disappear from history. Speaking of which, what did Dustless leave in the Black Dragon scroll? Great Seeming could not hold back his curiosity, and looked at the moon god expectantly. On the 18th of next month, the first emperor will tour the east. This is the content hidden in the Black Dragon scroll. The moon god said softly. I see. In this case, the rebels of the school of Mo and the people from the school of Mo will kill Zheng at all costs. Great Seeming's cold face formed a beautiful arc. The only difference was that it was very deadly. For the people who were against the Qin kingdom, they could not wait for the first emperor to go on a tour. In this way, they could seize the opportunity to assassinate him. Once the school of Mo knows about the content of the Black Dragon scroll, they will kill Zheng at all costs. Great Seeming said with certainty. That is true. But it is a pity. Zheng will tour the east, but not now. Their wish is destined to fail. It is just a beautiful dream that is out of their reach. Moreover, the person who will replace Zheng to tour the east this time is Xing Han. This was Dustless's plan. He would use Xing Han to kill Wei Zhuang and the others. Then he would jump out to be the savior and win everyone's trust. What a perfect script. Chapter 1855. Yueshan and Great Seeming gave their full support to Dustless's plan. There was nothing they could do. Although they were still part of the school of Yinyang on the surface, Yueshan and Great Seeming's relationship with Dustless could not be severed. Especially Great Seeming. Not only was her mind taken over by Dustless, even her body was taken over by him. As for Yueshan, she was also subdued by Dustless. In the past, the moon deity had no choice but to launch a sneak attack on Xing Han. Once this matter was exposed, the moon deity would definitely suffer. Hence, she had always been threatened by Wu Qin. For the time being, she listened to everything he said and did not dare to go against him. However, as time passed, after being Dustless's follower for a while, Yueshan was shocked to find that following Dustless was not bad. Compared to Dustless, Dong Huangtai's astrology was simply too weak. Although astrology was magical, it could only vaguely predict the general situation. On the other hand, Dustless was nature-defying and could do what others couldn't. He could predict the future every time, and come up with the most detailed and accurate data clues to convince others. He was countless times better than Dong Huangtai. As for his strength, it was needless to say. The mission is completed. Let's retreat for now. Looking over, School of Mo and Quicksand's people were crushing the Qin army at lightning speed. Then they hurriedly cleaned up the battlefield. It seemed like they did not want to leave any evidence behind. However, they did not know that their every move was seen by Yueshan and Great Seeming. That old man band from School of Mo is also very skilled in the art of traps. He is not weaker than Gong Shuqiu. I'm afraid he will solve the Black Dragon scroll soon. Great Seeming agreed. Then the two of them turned into green smoke and disappeared with the wind. On the other side, at Xiaoxing's manor, the atmosphere was tense, especially the current head of Confucianism, Fu Nian, who was the most depressed. First, Li Si came to find trouble, and he managed to deal with it. Now Fu Su came. Fu Nian's heart was extremely heavy. He even had the thought of exorcising ghosts for peace. Furthermore, Fu Su's excuse made it difficult for Fu Nian to reject him. Ignoring the other party's identity, he had come to the sage manor to thank him. How could he reject him? Everyone. At this moment, a voice that everyone hadn't heard for a long time suddenly rang out, instantly attracting everyone's attention. The people who came into view were Dustless and Zhang Liang. Seeing this, Li Si groaned and pointed at Dustless as he reprimanded. Zichun, how dare you? You actually dared to make the young master wait for you for an hour. This is a great disrespect. Last time, Dustless had won the Yellowstone Heavenly Book from Li Si, causing this fellow to hate Dustless to death. How could he let go of such a good opportunity? Lord Prime Minister, the guilty person is you. Dustless sneered and immediately retorted sarcastically. My Lord Prime Minister, you should understand that this is the Confucian school, and should abide by the Confucian school's rules. Young Master Fu Su has yet to speak, but you speak first. Do you have any respect for the young master? You? Hearing this, Li Si's old face instantly darkened. He fiercely glared at Dustless before hurriedly apologizing. Young master, please forgive me. I neglected it for a moment. Neglected it for a moment? Lord Prime Minister, don't you know that there is a saying that a person's true nature is often inadvertently revealed? Perhaps the moment that you neglected it just now was Lord Li's true nature. Dustless continued his attack, his words causing Li Si's old face to turn red. This despicable brat. After hearing this, Li Si hurriedly knelt on the ground and secretly glanced at Fu Su. Seeing that the latter was not angry, he heaved a sigh of relief. To be honest, Li Si really did not care about Fu Su. Although this fellow was the future successor of the empire, Fu Su currently did not have any real power. In history, Fu Su was killed by this Li Si in front of him. Brat, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't speak carelessly. If a young man is arrogant, he will only fall and bleed. Li Si's eyes were sinister and vicious, releasing a light that was about to devour someone. What a joke. Seeing this, Dustless did not hide the contempt in his eyes. Naturally, he could hear the threat in Li Si's words. His classmate Han Fei was too talented and was envied by Li Si, resulting in his wrongful death in prison. All of this was related to Li Si. Although this fellow was the prime minister in terms of bearing, he was truly lacking. Furthermore, this person was extremely narrow-minded and easily jealous. However, it was undeniable that Li Si was able to reach the position of prime minister, which meant that he had some ability. Alright, the two of you, let's stop here. Fu Su waved his hand. Seeing that Dustless was not afraid of Li Si, his face was filled with unconcealable surprise. Ordinary people would not even dare to breathe loudly in front of Li Si. Li Si looked like a cultured person on the surface, but do not forget that he had a net in his hands. In reality, he was also a person with muscles. This brat has caused me to lose face time and time again. I have to find a chance to get rid of him. Seeing that Dustless did not show any signs of anger, Li Si's livid face slowly recovered. He hated Dustless to the core. Ever since he met this brat, he had been unlucky. Just thinking about it made Li Si feel unlucky. Especially when Li Si lost the Yellowstone Heavenly Scripture. In the last competition, he was even scolded by Ying Zheng. Just thinking about it made him clench his teeth in anger. If he could give a treasure like the Yellowstone Heavenly Scripture to Ying Zheng, then his position as the Prime Minister would be much more stable. Chapter 1856. Li Si and Dustless suddenly engaged in a battle of words, causing everyone to jump in fright. Especially the head of the Confucian school, Fu Nian, who felt uneasy and uneasy. Even though he was happy to slap Li Si's face, Dustless's actions were no different from setting himself on fire. After all, Li Si was the Prime Minister. You want to fight with me? I'll kill you. Under the astonished gazes of the crowd, Dustless finally sat down. His magnanimous appearance was very carefree, completely opposite to Li Si, who was so angry that the veins on his forehead were popping. Everyone looked at each other in astonishment. At such a young age, you're indeed a dragon among men. Fu Su's deep and bright eyes circled around Dustless. His face was filled with unconcealable surprise. Dustless's age was really too young. He looked to be around 17 or 18 years old, but his bearing was extraordinary. Especially when he was on par with Li Si, it blinded everyone's eyes. In this ancient era, there was a popular saying, "The people do not fight with the officials." Furthermore, the other party was Li Si, a true prime minister. In the entire Great Qin Empire, his position was second only to Qin King Ying Zheng. Although Fu Su's status was higher than Li Si's, he did not have any real power. A mere disciple of the Confucian school dared to offend the current prime minister. In the eyes of some people, Dustless was a classic example of courting death. They hoped that Li Si would give him a stab. If not for Zichen saving me, I would have been killed by those bandits. The reason why I am still alive today is all because of Grandmaster. Fu Su bowed slightly after he finished speaking, his expression filled with gratitude. This brat, what ability does he have to make young master think so highly of him? In truth, Li Si was rather jealous. This was the first time he had seen Fu Su address someone as grandmaster. You're too polite. I just saw injustice on the road. Dustless did not mind and only smiled. He had a good impression of Fu Su. Despite his identity as the future successor of the great Qin Empire, Fu Su's manners did not have the slightest bit of arrogance. Just like the rumors, he was very gentle. May I know where the Yellowstone Heavenly Book that Grandmaster obtained is? Fu Su impatiently asked when he thought of the special and important aspects of the Yellowstone Heavenly Book. This, Dustless frowned slightly and stopped moving his lips. He really didn't know how to answer. Let's see how you're going to escape this time. Young master is asking you for the Yellowstone Heavenly Book. Are you going to refuse? If you dare to refuse, I have countless reasons to deal with you. Seeing Dustless's distressed appearance, Li Si felt refreshed and an unconcealable smile appeared on his face. However, this joyous scene did not last long. After hearing Dustless's nonsensical reply, Li Si's heart almost jumped out of his chest. Well, to tell you the truth, I was attacked a few days ago and lost the Yellowstone Heavenly Book. Dustless pretended to be disappointed and ashamed, saying, Those people are extremely powerful and well-trained. They look like men of sacrifice. I managed to severely injure one of them, but the Yellowstone Heaven Book was also taken away by them. Really? Hearing this, Fu Su was first taken aback and then said angrily, You dare to rob in broad daylight. What a bastard. Li Si, what are you doing as the Prime Minister? Do you only care about enjoying your life? Young master. Li Si wanted to cry but no tears came out. Looking at the shocked and angry Dustless, he even had the thought of dying. This was all made up by Dustless. In these days, he had sent people to observe Dustless and often lost him. How could there be anyone ambushing him? It was all nonsense. You dare to deceive young master. Although it is not a serious crime like deceiving the monarch, it is enough for you to suffer. Li Si's cold gaze swept over Dustless. Just as he was about to expose him, he saw Dustless's cunning eyes and his heart skipped a beat. Without waiting for Li Si to explain, Dustless took the initiative to attack Li Si. Young master, to be honest, a few days ago when I lost the Yellowstone Heavenly Book, I killed one of them. Those people seemed to belong to the same organization, and all of them had the mark of a spider on their necks. Wu Chen's eyes were sparkling, and his determined tone made people involuntarily convinced. Pfft! After hearing Wu Chen's deceptive explanation, Zhao Gao, who had been silent all this while, lost his self-control and spat out the hot tea that he had just drunk. Zhao Gao, do you know the organization that Master Zichen spoke of? Seeing Zhao Gao's abnormal behavior, Fu Su instinctively asked. Then he said, Such an arrogant organization, we cannot easily let them go. Zhao Gao stood up and coughed awkwardly. Cough, cough, cough. Young master, that organization is actually a trap. Zhao Gaozhen shifted his gaze and saw Wu Chen who was grinning evilly. Zhao Gaozhen wished he could slap him. He had indeed sent a net to ambush Wu Chen, but it had failed in the end. But, glancing coldly at Dustless, Zhao Gao coldly said in a loud voice, Zichen is extremely strong. At that time, the people of the Luo net did not steal the Yellowstone Heavenly Book. Young master, he is completely making things up. Please punish him. Magistrate Zhao Gao's official position, don't lie through your teeth. The Yellowstone Heavenly Book was obviously snatched away by you. Now you want to frame me? If you want to prove that the Yellowstone Heavenly Book is still in my hands, please take out your own evidence. Dustless said calmly. This damned brat, how dare he be so arrogant? Hearing this, Zhao Gao's cold face was filled with a bone-piercing killing intent. He finally understood how depressed Li Si was. In the past, he thought that Dustless was only strong. He did not expect that his sharp tongue was even stronger than his martial arts. Evidence? The Luo net never needed evidence. Where could he find it? Chapter 1857. Zhao Gao's net never knew what evidence was. If they felt suspicious, they would directly capture them. If they resisted, they would directly kill them. Naturally, there would not be any evidence. Humph. Fu Su snorted heavily as he glanced at Zhao Gao with a fiery gaze. Brat, I will let you know the price of angering me. Seeing this, Zhao Gao could only lower his head in shame. On the surface, he did not dare to show his anger. However, in his heart, he hated Dustless to the core. All along, it was their net that splashed dirty water on others. Since when was there someone so daring to offend them? The people from the Confucian faction also felt that it was a fantasy. Young Master Fu Su actually reprimanded his two generals for a mere zichen. This caused the people from the Confucian faction to be shocked, and some even looked at Dustless with jealousy. What ability did this brat have to be able to hug young Master Fu Su's thick thigh? Sigh. Actually, Fu Su's heart was also filled with helplessness. Even though he knew that Dustless was being crafty, he did not have a plan to deal with him. Firstly, Dustless was his benefactor, and secondly, he did not have any evidence. Instead, it was Zhao Gao and Li Si who actually dared to spy on him, and even dared to openly rob him. Furthermore, they were caught by Dustless and reported back. In Fu Su's eyes, they were too useless. Everyone. At this moment, a slightly gloomy and calm voice came, which attracted everyone's attention at once, including Wu Chun, who also felt that this strange and cold voice was somewhat familiar. Actually, you only need to hand this Zichen over to me, and use the mind-reading technique to test him. This way, we will be able to find out if the Yellowstone Heavenly Book has been stolen. This voice sounded extremely young, but no one dared to underestimate it. Xing Han from the school of Yinyang. The people from the Confucian faction all became nervous. Everyone had heard of Xing Han, one of the two great imperial advisors of the Qin kingdom. No. As soon as Xing Han finished speaking, Zhang Liang stood up to confront Dustless. Of course, it was not because he sympathized with Dustless. If possible, Zhang Liang would rather have this mysterious fellow killed immediately. However, Dustless was a disciple of the Confucian school, and was wearing Confucian robes. Furthermore, he was living in the sage manner. If Xing Han found out that he was spouting nonsense, the consequences would be unimaginable. It was one thing for Dustless to die, but the Confucians would also be implicated and suffer greatly. This kid's injuries are recovering very quickly. But why did this woman appear? Dustless merely glanced at Xing Han out of boredom. His gaze was focused on the woman behind Xing Han. When he saw her appearance, his eyes narrowed. As for Xing Han himself, he was completely ignored by Dustless. After all, he was just a loser. There was nothing worth paying attention to. Wasn't she imprisoned by the Yin Yang family? Why was she suddenly released? It seems like they brought her to the Confucians to cause trouble. Standing on Xing Han's left was young Master Ming from the Yin Yang family. On his right was an unexpected person. She was known as the first extraordinary lady of the Yin Yang family, and was Yu Er's mother, Concubine Yan. At this moment, Concubine Yan was dressed in a palace gown. Her beautiful face was slightly haggard, and there was an unconcealable sadness in the depths of her eyes. She sometimes showed resistance towards the young Xing Han in front of her, but for some reason, she just lowered her head and stood silently beside Xing Han. It seems like they have reached some kind of agreement, but with Xing Han's authority, he can't release Concubine Yan. He must have reached some kind of agreement with the boss of the Yin Yang family, Dong Huangtai. Dustless was deep in thought. Concubine Yan's sudden appearance had indeed caught him off guard. That's strange. Have I seen this kid somewhere before? Why does he look so familiar? Xing Han glanced at Zichen from the Confucian family in surprise. He felt like he had seen him before. The strangest thing was that his wound, which was almost healed, started to hurt again. It was extremely strange. Idiot, Zichen is Dustless. Dustless seemed to have sensed Xing Han's confusion, and smiled without saying anything. At the same time, he glanced at young Master Ming, who was beside Xing Han, and smiled in a friendly manner. Humph. However, young Master Ming did not appreciate his kindness. She only snorted softly and glanced over. Really, it seems like this little woman is still holding a grudge. Dustless spread his hands and did not know whether to laugh or cry. Indeed, it was right not to provoke a woman. Zifeng, what's wrong with that? If you don't do anything wrong, you don't have to be afraid of ghosts knocking on your door. I'm just checking your memory. Xinghun looked at Dustless and said nonchalantly, on the contrary, if you keep resisting, you'll seem humble. Haha. Seeing this, Wu Chen just laughed twice and said something shocking. There's absolutely no problem to take a look at my memory. I've always been an easygoing person, but, as the saying goes, there's an order to everything. Didn't I say before that the Confucian family values seniority and seniority? So if I were to check my memory, it would be the prime minister and the prefect of the carriage, Zhao Gao, who came first, right? You brat, don't go too far. Seeing that Dustless had dragged him into this again, Li Si was instantly enraged. How could he tolerate being ridiculed by a little brat? Moreover, what puzzled him the most was that Dustless's words made sense. It was obviously unfair to just check Dustless's memory. With Fu Su's personality, he would definitely let Li Si, Zhao Gao and Dustless come together. However, everyone had their own secrets. If Xinghun were to check his memory, wouldn't that be terrible? Chapter 1858. Zhao Gao's face turned green. He was even more concerned about this than Li Si. He could not allow Xinghun to read his mind. Otherwise, his greatest secret would be exposed. Many years ago, Zhao Gao had already pledged his allegiance to Hu Hai, and even secretly planned to get rid of Hu Hai. This way, Hu Hai would be able to take over Hu Hai's position in the future, and he, Zhao Gao, would be able to ascend to the top in one step. It was better to be safe than sorry. What if Xinghun found out? Mind reading is not reliable. Young master, I object. Glaring coldly at Dustless, Zhao Gao rejected loudly. Furthermore, the school of Yinyang are all sorcerers of the pugilistic world. The prime minister is very busy every day. It would be bad if the secrets that he is handling for the empire were exposed by the school of Yinyang. You are right. Mind reading is not appropriate. Li Si hurriedly rejected as well. If both of you reject, then we can just muddle through. However, I am afraid that no one will know the whereabouts of the Yellowstone Heavenly Book in the future. Xinghun said nonchalantly. You win. Li Si and Zhao Gao both hated Dustless. Because of this fellow, they could not avoid being scolded. It was simply an unlucky year. They must have not checked the almanac when they went out and met Dustless. This jinx. They hated Dustless to the core. May I know why young master is here today? Seeing that everyone had taken their seats, Fu Nian sighed inwardly. He said respectfully to Fu Su, if the empire needs the school of Confucianism, we will do our best. That is good. Hearing this, Fu Su was overjoyed. His impression of the school of Confucianism also improved. It is indeed the same as the legends in history. Seeing Fu Su's friendly appearance, Dustless suddenly recalled some memories of Fu Su from his previous life. Compared to Ing Zheng, who ruled the world by force, Fu Su was much more benevolent. He also agreed with the teachings of the school of Confucianism. However, due to some people's interference, Fu Su was forced to commit suicide. The masterminds were the two bowing Li Si and Zhao Gao. In history, it was the two of them who conspired to kill Fu Su and Great General Meng Tian, supporting Hu Hai to ascend to the throne. I won't hide it from you. Recently, there have been many rebels in Shanghai. Among the 100 schools of thought, the Confucian school is ranked at the top. If they are willing to help, the remnants of the school of Moism will have nowhere to hide. Fu Su's tone carried a hint of pleading as he continued. The empire will definitely not forget Little Saint's kindness. This is bad. Hearing this, Zhang Liang sighed inwardly. He stared at Fu Nian, the leader of Shaoxingxian Manor, and became nervous for a moment. There's going to be a good show. Dustless, who had been observing the changes in Zhang Liang's expression, revealed an imperceptible smile. The situation of the Confucian school was a bit special. Inside there were 3 people in charge. Fu Nian was the leader of Shaoxingxian Manor, the second in charge was Yan Lu, and the third in charge was Zhang Liang. Within the Confucian school, they were not monolithic. At least, Zhang Liang was the only one who supported the school of Moism. Yan Lu only helped Zhang Liang at ordinary times. As for the leader, Fu Nian, he was actually more inclined to the Qin state. In the original work, when Fu Nian learned that Tianming and Shaoxing were rebels, he was so angry that he even quarreled with Zhang Liang. During this time, Yan Lu helped Zhang Liang. The angered Fu Nian almost expelled Yan Lu from the Confucian school if Sun Zi did not plead for mercy. Although Zhang Liang is a member of the Confucian school, fundamentally, he supports the school of Moism. It's really funny. Maybe the burning of books and burying of Confucianism in the future was caused by this guy. Seeing the tense Zhang Liang, Dustless could not help but shake his head. The leader of the Confucian school, Fu Nian, had a good character. He wanted to carry forward the teachings of the Confucian school. This was not a big mistake. It was human nature. However, Zhang Liang, who was a hindrance, colluded with the Confucian school. It was destined that Fu Nian's dream would come to nothing. Not only that, but he would also suffer the revenge of the Qin state in the future. Success and failure were because of Xiaohe. The fame of the Confucian school was inextricably linked to Zhang Liang. In the future, when the Confucian school was slaughtered, Zhang Liang still had an inescapable relationship. The current situation was different. In the original work, because of Zhang Liang's collusion with the school of Moism, Fu Nian gave up the idea of relying on Fu Su. Now it was different. Fu Nian did not know that Zhang Liang had colluded with the school of Moism. He, who wanted to carry forward the teachings of the Confucian school, was about to fall to Fu Su. What made Fu Nian most happy was that Fu Su valued the Confucian school. I'm so angry. Zhang Liang was having a hard time. In his heart, he had always planned for the 100 Schools of Thought Alliance to overthrow the Qin state. And the Confucian school was going to take the lead. But now, the leader of the Confucian school, Fu Nian, was about to fall to Fu Su. How could Zhang Liang be calm? Why? Seeing Zhang Liang's embarrassed appearance, Dustless chose to be a bystander and turn a deaf ear. To some extent, with Zhang Liang's personality, he was not suitable for the Confucian school, and was more suitable for joining the school of Moism. The Confucian school had rich contents. From an individual's perspective, there were benevolence, righteousness, etiquette, wisdom, faith, forgiveness, loyalty, filial piety, friendship, and other virtues. Zhang Liang's actions had already gone against these teachings. He even tried to overthrow the rule of the emperor, which was the topic that the Confucian school avoided the most. It was no wonder that in the original work, the angry Fu Nian wanted to punish Yan Lu, who covered up for Zhang Liang. Truth be told, the Sang pirates have been rampant recently. If the Confucian faction is willing to join in and help the empire wipe out the rebels, the Confucian faction will be under the rule of the empire in the future. Fu Su threw out the bait and tempted. Fu Su was indeed the future successor of the Qin state. He knew what Fu Nian wanted, which was to carry forward the Confucian school. Although Fu Su's promise was equivalent to an empty check, it was enough to make Fu Nian excited. If you knew that Zhang Liang was dragging you down, would you be so angry that you would vomit blood? Dustless had a strange expression. He could not help but imagine Fu Nian's furious appearance after knowing the truth. Chapter 1859. Some things were already destined. Zhang Liang's family was the prime minister in Korea for 5 generations. Since Korea was destroyed by the Qin state, it was destined that Zhang Liang could not help the Qin state as much as Fu Nian. Even in some aspects, Zhang Liang had to stand on the opposite side of Fu Nian. Zhang Liang is going to burn his ass this time. Looking at the anxious and gloomy Zhang Liang, Dustless laughed unscrupulously in his heart. Since there were some things that couldn't be ignored, Zhang Liang could only suffer from it. Young Master Fu Su, if you have anything to ask the Confucian school for help, just say it. Fu Nian said gently and elegantly. The Confucian school will do its best and work hard until the end. Then I'll be frank. Hearing this, Fu Su nodded happily and said bluntly, if possible, I hope Zichen can join me temporarily and be loyal to the empire. Dustless was stunned. When he was about to speak, he found that everyone's eyes were looking at him. Young master, you can't. Before Dustless could speak, some people stopped him. Looking closely, it was Zhang Liang, Li Si, and Zhao Gao. The three of them were strangely standing in the same trench. Why not? Fu Nian and Fu Su frowned and asked. This? Zhao Gao and Li Si looked at each other. Both of them hated Dustless. If they became Dustless's confidants, how could they do anything to Dustless in the future? Moreover, this was not the most important thing. As everyone knew, Dustless was the eldest son of Yingzheng and the future heir of the empire. If Dustless followed Dustless, then Zhao Gao and Li Si would be in trouble. As for Zhang Liang, that was even more unacceptable. Dustless was so powerful. If he was pushed to the Qin state's camp, wouldn't it be a disaster for the anti-Qin alliance? In Zhang Liang's view, Dustless should continue to be neutral and not help anyone. What are your plans, Zichen? Fu Nian suddenly looked at Dustless and said hopefully, if possible, I hope you can be young Master Fu Su's guard and protect his safety. F***ck, Fu Nian isn't a good person either. Dustless wailed in his heart. This bastard actually wanted to sacrifice himself to seduce a rich man like Fu Su. After all, Fu Su was the future successor of the empire. It was normal for Fu Nian to have other thoughts. After pondering for a moment, Dustless decisively refused. Forgive me for being blunt, but I have no intention of becoming a bodyguard. Protect Fu Su? Dustless wouldn't mind giving it a try since he was bored anyway if there were any benefits. However, Dustless decisively rejected such a thankless task. A pity. Fu Su sighed in disappointment. Although he was the eldest son of Yingzheng, sadly, he did not have any real power. Even the guards around him were Zhao Gao and Li Si's men, so it was normal for him to feel uneasy. Other than that, there is another important matter. It is a marriage. Fu Su was not depressed. He looked at Dustless and said directly, to be honest, due to the school of Yinyang's delay, I hope Zichen and Yinyang's young master Ming can become husband and wife. Dustless spat out the tea in his mouth when Fu Su said that. No problem, I will agree on behalf of Zichen. Before Dustless could say anything, Fu Nian agreed and looked at Dustless with a ferocious gaze, hinting him not to speak nonsense. What is going on? Zhang Liang was dumbfounded when he heard that. He looked at Fu Su in disbelief, and then at the school of Yinyang. Their faces were calm. It was obvious that they had been informed beforehand. Even young Master Ming herself was calm as if everything had nothing to do with her. It was obvious that she had also known about it beforehand. Why did they choose Dustless to marry? This is impossible. There is no reason at all. Zhang Liang's brain cells sped up as he thought. Could it be that they saw through Zichen's disguise as Dustless? That is also impossible. If they really saw through it, the Little Saint Manor would have been surrounded by the Qin army. Could it be that they value his shocking potential and want to pull him into the school of Yinyang? Zhang Liang's heart raced as he thought about the school of Yinyang's intentions. However, after thinking about it carefully, it was not possible. If they valued Dustless's potential and worth nurturing, they could have just snatched him away. If it was a marriage alliance, the meaning and implications would be too great. Furthermore, it was Fu Su who had spoken. What did this mean to a certain extent? It meant that the school of Yinyang wanted to form an alliance with the school of Yinyang. If the school of Yinyang and the school of Yinyang become allies of the state of Qin, then the 100 Schools of Thought alliance will become a laughingstock. The 100 schools of thought will collapse on their own. Realizing the danger and seriousness of this matter, Zhang Liang was about to speak up to stop it when Fu Nian's angry voice sounded out mercilessly. Zifang, shut up. Fu Nian naturally knew what kind of person Zhang Liang was after being his senior brother for more than 10 years. When he spoke, nothing good would come out of a dog's mouth. He would definitely want to ruin this marriage. Serves you right. Who asked you to be a busybody? Who asked you to be sinister and like to cheat others? This is retribution. Dustless glanced at Zhang Liang with schadenfreude. He also vaguely guessed the school of Yinyang's intentions. Sacrificing young Arbiter Ming could pull the strongest school of thought, the school of thought, into their camp. This deal was very worth it. Without the support of the school of thought, the other forces might collapse on their own. It was also normal for Fu Nian to accept this marriage alliance. As everyone knew, the state of Qin was in control of the world, and the school of Yinyang was an important guest of Yingzheng. If the school of thought could become allies with the school of thought, the status of the school of thought would naturally rise. Young Master Fu Su also appreciated Dustless. In the future, the school of thought would dominate the world. Just thinking about it made Fu Nian extremely excited. Put away your cunning thoughts. Don't forget that the head of the school of thought is me. Looking at Zhang Liang with a cold gaze, Fu Nian silently conveyed his meaning, which was to let Zhang Liang speak less and just watch. Oh. Chapter 1860. What does this have to do with me? Wu Chen was secretly speechless. He had a feeling of being *ket up. If you want to get married, then so be it. But what does this have to do with me? Although young Master Si Ming was quite good-looking, anyone would be annoyed if someone arranged a marriage for them out of the blue. Besides, Dustless wasn't the kind of person who lacked love, nor was he the kind of person who was infatuated with women. However, Dustless wasn't that interested. Why did young Master Fu Su choose me? Wu Chen suspiciously glanced at Fu Su, then looked at young Master Ming, who was as calm as an ancient well. He saw her calm and peaceful expression, as if everything had nothing to do with her. Why can't I choose you? Fu Su asked in puzzlement. Then he said his true thoughts. You are about the same age and Master Zichen and young Master Ming are both peerless geniuses. What's wrong with that? Dustless was speechless. Although Fu Su's reason was a bit rough, it was undeniable that it was a bit persuasive. A talented man and a beautiful woman were a good match. I still think it's a bit inappropriate. At this moment, Zhang Liang suddenly said, the two are not familiar with each other. Isn't it a bit inappropriate to have such a hasty marriage? Enough, Zifang. Fu Nian, who couldn't listen anymore, his old face darkened. He knew his junior brother's experience. Although he didn't show it on the surface, deep down, he definitely hated the Qin state. Zhang Liang's family, in the past, had 5 generations of prime ministers. There was no doubt that they were definitely the type of prominent officials. Now that the family was destroyed, and South Korea was gone with the wind, they were full of hatred for the Qin state. It was normal for them to be dissatisfied with the Confucian school joining the Qin state's camp. However, the head of the Confucian school was Fu Nian after all. He had to consider the overall situation. Naturally, he would choose whoever he followed. Although it was a bit snobbish, it was inevitable. What's more, loyalty to the king was the root of the Confucian school's doctrine. If the Confucian school led a rebellion, then they would inevitably lose their prestige in the future. This matter is decided by me. You can leave, Zifang. Waving his hand, Fu Nian was like an ice cube, exuding a cold chill. Zhang Liang was speechless. Looking at the cold light brewing in Fu Nian's eyes, he finally sighed helplessly and left. If he continued to pester, he was afraid that this senior brother would really go crazy. Ahem. I still have things to do, so I'll take my leave for now. Coughing awkwardly, Dustless planned to find a quiet place to rest for a while. However, Fu Nian didn't give him a good opportunity and grabbed Dustless. Brat, you have to agree even if you don't want to. What's wrong with sacrificing your body for the Confucian family? Fu Nian whispered into Dustless's ear, don't worry. After this marriage, the Confucian school will definitely not treat you unfairly. You won't treat me unfairly? Dustless rolled his eyes and turned a deaf ear to Fu Nian's words. It was completely equivalent to an empty check with no guarantee at all. But, changing the topic, Dustless secretly laughed and said inwardly, anyway, I'm bored. There's no harm in agreeing for the time being. I can take the opportunity to sow discord between Zhang Liang and Fu Nian, and finally expel Zhang Liang from the Confucian family. Dustless secretly laughed, then patted his chest and agreed heartily. No problem. For the future of the Confucian family, it's okay for me to suffer for the time being. Suffer for the time being? The others didn't change, but a trace of anger appeared on young Master Ming's beautiful face. Dustless's words made it sound like she was at a disadvantage. She wasn't a monster that couldn't be seen in public. If it wasn't for the Yinyang school this time. Just wait and see. Young Master Ming thought of the Yinyang school's plan, and could only glare fiercely at Dustless, then decisively extinguished the flame in her eyes. Sure enough, the Inyang school's marriage plan isn't just for the alliance. I'm afraid there are other purposes. What exactly is that old fox Dong Huangtai planning? I'll ask Yueshan and Great Master Ming later. Let's play with young Master Ming for the time being. Dustless lowered his head and quietly observed young Master Ming. Seeing that she was enduring silently, he was relieved. Let nature take its course for the time being. Wait. You can't marry anyone from the Inyang school. At this moment, Xing Han, who had been silent all this while, suddenly spoke. He glanced at Dustless and said, "There are still some tests." "Is that so? But let me tell you, I won't marry anyone casually." Dustless glanced at young Master Ming to convey this message. Young Master Ming's clear and beautiful face froze. The green leaves around them had already slowly floated over from all directions, and it looked like she was about to make a move. It's very simple to marry someone from the Inyang school. You have to at least defeat young Master Ming. The Inyang school doesn't need a useless person who looks strong on the outside, but is weak on the inside. Xing Han glanced coldly at Dustless. It was obvious that he was implying that young Master Ming wanted to fight with Dustless. If that's the case, there's no need to proceed. Dustless shrugged and said disapprovingly, "This is too boring. Let's change to something else." "You intend to admit defeat?" Xing Han glanced at Dustless and said disdainfully, "If you're not strong enough, just give up. I won't stop you. We've already competed before." "I'm sorry young Master Ming lost." Dustless gave an answer that made Xing Han speechless. He sneered disdainfully and said, "I'm not interested in a loser. Let's stop here. The Inyang school is just a small trick. Are you looking down on me? I've already lost once. How can I lose again?" Young Master Ming snorted unhappily. She realized that Dustless was looking down on her. Just lost once? Some things can be changed, but some things can't be changed. Dustless stared at young Master Ming nonchalantly. His indifferent eyes were filled with silent contempt and calmness. Chapter 1861. Hearing Dustless's confident tone, the other members of the Confucian school did not mind. After all, they had already seen how powerful Dustless was. But Xing Han, who had always thought highly of himself, could not tolerate it. "You think you're very powerful?" Xing Han's face was cold as he said coldly, "Other than that guy, you're the second person to be as arrogant as you." "That guy?" Hearing this, Dustless's interest was piqued. He blinked and asked, "Is there someone like me in this world?" "This guy." Seeing Dustless's arrogant attitude, Xing Han's mouth twitched. A figure appeared in his mind. He looked at Dustless and said, "That guy is Dustless. He's my archenemy." "You? Archenemy? You think too highly of yourself." Hearing this, Dustless's face was full of mockery. Because he had disguised himself, Xing Han did not recognize that the Zichen he was talking to was Dustless. "Fine, since the Inyang school wants to have a duel, I'll accept it. But..." Dustless smiled at young Master Ming and said, "Don't cry when you lose. Do you think I'm a child?" Young Master Ming's voice was full of confidence. Ever since she was defeated by Dustless, she had been practicing her inner strength, and her strength had improved. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Faint ripples appeared in the air. A vortex of vital energy appeared at the tip of young Master Ming's finger. With a flick of her finger, a large number of leaves were drawn over by her power. The leaves formed a green whip that could be seen clearly. It was worth mentioning that young Master Ming exerted strength in her arms this time. Her snow-white wrists extended out of her sleeves, revealing her pure white skin. Her clean and flawless arms were as white as snow. Lecher. When she saw Wu Chen staring fixedly at her, Xiaoxi Ming snorted lightly, and a wisp of a strange ripple flashed through her heart. It was the first time she'd been stared at in a daze by someone like this, so she couldn't help but feel slightly uncomfortable. "This time, I'll make sure you understand how extraordinary the school of Inyang is." Xiaoxi Ming's pair of beautiful eyes slightly narrowed, emitting a cold beam of light. She crossed her arms abruptly, and right after that, the pair of viper-like green, Long whips wrapped around Dustless's body from both sides. With all due respect, Dustless looked at the green leaf whip carefully. He lost interest and said in boredom, "Although its power is stronger than last time, its essence hasn't changed. It's still as superficial." Whoosh whoosh whoosh. At the same time, the sharp green leaf whip also swung over and went straight for Wu Chen's face. Upon seeing this, Dustless stood still. His handsome face raised a faint smile of victory, and the spiritual pressure in his body slightly erupted. Boom boom boom. Although it was only a weak trace of spiritual pressure, the movement it created was incomparable. Ka ka ka. The ground he stepped on instantly exploded, and the dense cracks were shocking to the eye. The explosion of the air wave attacked the green leaf long whip that surrounded him. Ka ka ka. The berserk spiritual pressure, in a crushing manner, tore the attacking green leaves to shreds, turning them into gravel-like granules that scattered all over the ground. How about this? Dustless's calm gaze swept across Xing Hun and Xiao Ximing's faces. He said indifferently, "Xiao Ximing, your strength has indeed improved, but your luck isn't too good. You picked the wrong enemy." I won't give up." Upon hearing this, Xiao Ximing bit her lips and clenched her fists tightly. She looked at Dustless with great reluctance. "Not bad." Xing Hun nodded expressionlessly, but a storm was brewing in his heart. He was very wary of Dustless's strength. Due to the fact that he was too fast, he didn't know what was going on. "Are you all so bored? Fusu, you called me here just to watch children fight? Moreover, the performance of the school of Yinyang is really disappointing." At this moment, an ethereal voice appeared out of nowhere and landed in everyone's ears. This crisp and pleasant female voice could be identified as a girl, even if one closed their eyes. However, what was hard to understand was that there was no one else around except for Xiao Ximing. Could it be? Wu Chen's spirit was refreshed. In his mind, an immortal-like, ethereal, and untouchable young girl suddenly appeared. "So it's Master Xiaoming. You're finally here. However, you seem to be late. The banquet has already ended." Fu Suning looked at the light figure floating in front of her. There was a rare trace of apology in her tone. It wasn't hard to see that Fu Suning respected this person. "That's good. I'm not interested in children's fights." The light figure slowly walked over, getting closer and closer. Within the fog, one of the beautiful figures was faintly discernible, appearing extremely ethereal. It even gave people the illusion that this person was riding a cloud. She was right in front of them, but it felt like gold was on the horizon. "People of the Confucian school, where is your Grandmaster Sun Zi?" A few seconds later, the mist stopped in the middle of the hall. A young girl with a breathtaking appearance suddenly appeared. This person had a pair of slender white legs that looked like the most perfect masterpiece of the heavens. Her appearance was also impeccable, with a natural arrogance. Her deep eyes were filled with wisdom, as if she had seen through the past of the mortal world. She was surrounded by immortal qi and her aura was extremely powerful. Facing such a young girl, everyone would feel a sense of inferiority. "Is this Master Xiaoming? She's really arrogant." Dustless gave her a thumbs up secretly. He was sincerely impressed by Master Xiaoming's temperament. Yueshan and Xiao Ximing were the type that stood aloof from worldly affairs. They were elegant and refined. Great Ximing was cold and piercing like a snow lotus. However, Master Xiaoming had a fairy-like temperament. Her bright eyes were filled with unusual wisdom. Nothing could escape from her eyes. Just as Dustless was sizing up Master Xiaoming, the latter suddenly looked over. Chapter 1862. What do you want? Everyone was trying to figure out Xiaoming's intentions. It was really inappropriate for the head of a heavenly sect to stare at a Confucian disciple without moving. Is this the head of the heavenly sect, Xiaoming? Xing Hun looked at Xiaoming with some apprehension and deliberately revealed some hostility. However, the latter did not care about Xing Hun at all and completely ignored him as if he was air. Despicable woman. Seeing this, Xing Hun withdrew his hostility. After all, Xiaoming was Fu Su's guest. Picking on her was equivalent to finding trouble with Fu Su. "What's the matter?" After a while, Dustless saw that Xiaoming was just looking at him quietly. She did not release any hostility or attack. She just stared at him motionlessly like a block of wood. Nothing. Xiaoming just responded faintly. Then, she looked at Dustless meaningfully and said, I heard that your moves are very strange. Even an expert like the six-sword slave was defeated. Today, I see that you live up to your reputation. Master Xiaoming, you're exaggerating. Dustless politely cupped his hands. His eyes rolled as he pursed his lips and said apologetically, I still have something to deal with. Forgive me for not keeping you company. I'll take my leave for now, everyone. As his voice faded, Dustless swaggered off. Wait. At this moment, Xiaoming suddenly stopped Dustless from leaving and said, Today's visit to the Confucian sect can't be fruitless. If Sun Zi is not here, the person who will discuss Taoism with me will be replaced by you. Hearing this, Fu Nian's expression changed drastically. He quickly interrupted and said, Senior, Zichen is just a junior. He is illiterate and only knows some basic martial arts. Illiterate? Everyone was shocked. The Confucian sect's knowledge was well known. A Confucian disciple might not be extremely knowledgeable, but at least he was not illiterate. Are you trying to bully me? Xiaoming pursed her thin lips. She did not believe it either. Her eyes narrowed and emitted a dangerous light. Don't feel strange, this is an undeniable fact. Dustless shrugged and scratched his head awkwardly. I really can't read. Sorry, goodbye. As soon as he finished speaking, Dustless hurriedly fled. Fighting was fine, but those literary things were really not his forte. Moreover, this matter had nothing to do with him at all. Xiaoming had already named Sun Zi, so Dustless did not need to act like a rash youth. Moreover, there was still Fu Nian. Phew. The air outside is still fresh. Dustless walked out of the reception hall and breathed in the fresh air. He stretched his body and looked up at the blue sky with a lazy expression on his face. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. A gentle breeze suddenly blew over. Dustless paused for a second. Then he turned around and saw young Master Ming with her purple hair fluttering in the wind. You're really haunting me. Even if you have an engagement, there's no need to be so serious. Dustless looked helpless. He stared at young Master Ming for a moment and said bluntly, What is the purpose of your Yin-Yang school? Forgive me for being blunt, but I find it hard to believe that you have a marriage alliance without any reason. You're quite smart. Young Master Ming's calm eyes flashed with surprise. She said bluntly, The Yin-Yang school does not want to form an alliance with the Confucian sect. Instead, it wants to devour the Confucian sect from its roots. In other words, it needs a suitable representative to rule the Confucian sect and become its subsidiary. Is that so? So they sent you here? Dustless was extremely calm. He had long known that the Yin-Yang school's motive was not simple. Can I understand it this way? Dustless's eyes lit up. The Yin-Yang school needs a suitable representative, and you feel that I have a bright future. So you chose me and hope that I can replace Fu Nian's position in the future? You're very smart. Hearing this, Xiao Ximing nodded noncommittally and said, Then what are your plans? If you sincerely want to be affiliated with the Yin-Yang school, we can help you secretly kill Fu Nian and help you take the position. In the future, the head of the Confucian school will inevitably be you. After you and I get married, your status will inevitably rise, and everything will be logical. Sounds good, but I'm more concerned about what will happen if I refuse? Dustless asked with a smile. Will the Yin-Yang school kill me immediately? That's not it. It's completely unnecessary. Young Master Ming shook her head elegantly and said with a calm and confident tone, If you refuse, then let nature take its course. According to the Yin-Yang school's arrangement, I will still marry you. In the future, we can still slowly devour the Confucian sect, but the time will be much slower. Is that so? The Yin-Yang school is really calm. Dustless sighed and then left in boredom. He said, Then you can wait. I'm not interested in the position of the head of the Confucian sect. You're a disciple of the Confucian sect. Shouldn't everyone yearn for Fu Nian's position? Young Master Ming frowned and chased after Dustless. She stood side by side with him. The position of the head of the Confucian sect is admired by everyone in the world. It's as dazzling as the stars. It's because it's too dazzling that I'm not interested. I don't have any great ambitions. I'm not interested in leading the Confucian sect and carrying it forward. Dustless shook his hand. These words were completely from the bottom of his heart. It was really tiring to be a boss. This was what Dustless learned from his experience in several worlds. I see. I'm suddenly interested in you. As a disciple of the Confucian sect, you don't care about the position of the head of the Confucian sect. It's really puzzling and curious. A short while later, young Master Ming abruptly said something that sounded weird. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.